What's up, guys and gals? My name is Eclepid. Welcome back to Remember 11. When we last left off, we were figuring out stuff with Satoru's route. We had just started his route, and some pretty funny things happened. Seeing things from his perspective. Especially, this massive freakout he had. It's gone. That massive freakout. But anyways, let's get right back into it. Please tell me I saved. Yes, I did. Did I? I might have. I think I did. Alright, we're good. I decided to begin without delay. First of all, I'll start with this room. Examining my own room might help me find some clues regarding my amnesia. Does this matter? Is this like when we walked around in as Kokoro? When we walked around the sphere checking things out. And I don't think it necessarily mattered. I didn't know that we were this close to a choice either. You know what, I'll save just because we can. Overwrite it. There we go. And I mean, again, I don't think it matters, but let's try. I said we should write on the fucking notepad, because we haven't yet. So, the desk, maybe? I decided to check out the desk. The objects arrayed across it met my eyes. A notepad and a felt-tip pen lay there. Ah, thank God. Here's the notepad. If I left a message on this notepad, she could read it when the transfer occurred. And she could reply to me in the same way. As long as she left a note behind, then I'd be able to read it once I came back to Sphia. This is my room. No, should I say it's Kokoro's room too? Anyway, this was her private space, so whenever she was in the facility, she'd always come here. This somewhat old-fashioned means of communication isn't exactly what you call luxury, but for now I can't think of a better way. I took the pen in hand and immediately set about writing a message. But what should I write about? After some hesitation, I put the pen back down. I hadn't heard any details from the three in Sphia yet, and probably won't be too late to write a message later. If something I wrote was unreliable, it'd only confuse her further. What's up, Axis? Welcome to the stream. Leaving the notepad blank, I moved away from the desk. Next, I should... why do we need to check the fucking refrigerator? I decided to examine the shelves at the foot of the bed. Lying next to the alarm clock were two things. The first was something like a card, and the other was a small metal object. I picked up the card first. Satoru Yukido. 1-331-2223-9801. That was engraved into the surface of the plastic card. Yukido Satoru. It looked like some kind of ID card. I turned the card over, but there was nothing worth describing on the back. My ID card. What was he used for? When, where, and for what? Come to think of it, Utsumi had said this to me yesterday. I think that's bullshit. So which one is it? Staffer or patient? If I was a staff member, then this ID card was probably for the use of Sphia personnel. If I was a patient, what then? It's not like it's strange for patients to have ID cards. Maybe this place requires all patients to carry an ID card? I don't understand. I decided to put the card in my pocket for now. Next, I picked up the small metal object. It was just a garden variety key. Two grooves were carved down its center, and both sides had complicated patterns engraved on them. With just one glance, I could tell it wasn't a key for a bike or any kind of automobile. It didn't seem to be the key to a drawer or a safe either. It looks like an ordinary house key. I feel like this house key should be something that's setting warning bells to my brain, but I can't remember why. It was a key that can't be described except with the word key itself. After picking it up, I took a look around me. The first thing I thought of was that it could be the key to this room. Without further ado, I opened up the door and tried to put in the lock from the other side, but it didn't fit. That proved that this wasn't the key to this door. I hadn't noticed any other keyholes around. Thus, it too remained a mystery. I didn't understand what those items were for, but I decided to stop thinking about them for now. I put the key back in the same pocket as my ID card. Next, fuck the refrigerator. There's nothing in the refrigerator except poison. I decided to check out the bed. I removed the pillow and the covers. The white sheets were spotlessly fresh and clean. I stopped to look under the bed. Nothing, not so much as a scrap of litter here. Just in case, I decided to check under the mattress too. I grabbed the edge and raised it high. What? A magazine had been hidden under the mattress. At first I was flustered, thinking that its contents were probably indecent, or rather maybe it's not ironic to say I was hoping so. But sadly, it wasn't one of those magazines. Politics, economics, society, culture, entertainment, the week's current events, gossip topics, news, reviews, in other words, an ordinary weekly magazine. Current Events Weekly was written on the cover, and right below it, July 21st, 320 yen. Yes, the year is 320 yen. The cover also included an illustration, but it didn't contain any writing. What year was this issue from? I picked up the magazine. After replacing the mattress, I sat down on the bed. I decided to check the back cover. Along with the publisher, editor, and some other names, I found the following description. Issued 7/21/2011. What? How is that possible? Well, there is my theory that Svea is 2011. Early 2011. There it goes, out the window. Goodbye. The whole uni thing about being gone for a year and now just returning was confusing enough to begin with, but I figured that was just him being insane. But now I'm actually thrown through a loop here. I don't know what's going on. What? And you think it's 2012? That was about half a year ago. I tried flipping through the pages. A certain article caught my eye. Oh yeah, that's right, he did think it was 2012. How plane crash survivor finally found. Found after 7 days in extreme conditions. That in itself wasn't particularly astonishing. I already knew what that headline had to be about. How about the contents? There might be some useful information in them. Thinking this, I scanned the article. To sum it up. Oh wait, no, I did know that it was 2012 in Svea. I think I made that realization last time. That it was a year, it had to have been a year after, because Utsumi's like, she knows people, they were talking about knowing the plane crash had already occurred. What is going on? The control tower lost the plane signal at about 3:30 p.m. on January 11, 2011. Its last known location was in the sky over the southern mountain range of Aomori Prefecture. The police and related bureaus assembled a special rescue team and immediately commenced the search for the fallen airframe and the passengers. Ugh. Yes, Diego, I did. It shows your name. If you didn't know. However, despite the ongoing investigations and searches, not a trace of the wreckage could be found. You didn't have to sign in. Could have just watched. More precisely, the search lasted 6 days. For about a week, the state of investigation remained unchanged. The whereabouts of the airframe are as of yet unknown. Even then, Even among the other plane crash incidents that happened in our country, this was an exception among exceptions, an unprecedented event. The sudden disappearance of Flight HAL 18 during the week before the airframe was found, Japan was in an uproar. Speculations flew, even including those that had accredited the crash as something paranormal. It might have crashed into the Sea of Japan, or been shot down by a fighter plane from a certain country. No. It was accidentally hit by a ground-to-air missile. Kidnapped by a UFO, swallowed into a different dimension. Flight 18 never existed in the first place. Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, and so on. And all of them were wrong. The authorities would later explain the cause of the delay in the discovery of the airframe as follows. 1. Between the time the control tower lost sight of the aircraft and the time of the crash, there was a blank of over 30 minutes. During this time, Flight 18 appeared to have been flying at a low altitude, weaving its way through the mountain range. Herewith, the wreckage was found in a place far from the crash point predicted by the authorities. 2. Nobody observed Flight 18's low altitude meandering. Flight 18 was making its way through a mountainous area in the dead of winter, a highly abnormal flight path. There were no private homes in the surrounding area, and nobody around who could have heard the sound of the crash. 3. Bad weather conditions. At the time, the entire Mount Akakura area was constantly subjected to bad weather. Therefore, conducting an investigation was difficult. 4. The effects of the solar winds. The most intense solar winds ever recorded in history. This disturbance resulted in the malfunction of the reconnaissance satellites. The use of satellite photography was also impossible. The above was the official statement concerning the lost week released by the authorities. Well then, on the contrary, how could the rescue team reach the site in the afternoon on the 17th? They simply said, "We got a phone call." Early on the morning of the 16th, the authorities received a phone call from a man claiming to be a survivor of Flight 18. Yes, they did. The gist of it was that there were 4 people in the shelter cabin of Mount Akakura in need of a rescue. Immediately after that, the call was cut off. Tracing the call to its original, they found that the caller had made use of a satellite phone line. But that line used by the satellite phone was also malfunctioning at the time due to the effects of the solar winds. The chance of getting in a proper connection in the year 2011 was 1 in 1 million. Therefore, receiving a call from the survivors was an event that couldn't be described as anything short of a miracle. But that crash had to happen after Sphia. What? Because we saw Uni get the scar in Sphia. And then he had the scar in plane crash time. What in the earth is going on? I'm gonna quick fill up my water. I'll be right back. Stay thirsty. My water is now filled up. Gotta get my drink on. Thinking makes me incredibly thirsty. Incidentally, if not for that phone call, the authorities probably never would have been able to pinpoint the exact location of the crash in time. Anyway, after receiving that information, the authorities attempted to search the area by helicopter right away. But even so, from the 15th until daybreak on the 17th, the whole Mount Akakura was in the midst of a severe storm. They couldn't even have fled the helicopter in that weather. The mountain rescue team could have gotten there on foot from the base of the mountain, but not without extreme difficulty. The shelter cabin was near the peak of Mount Akakura. No matter how skilled at climbing the team members were, an estimation would have taken them a week or more to reach the cabin. In the end, there was no other option than to wait for the weather to improve. On the afternoon of the 17th, there was a break in the storm, and thus the rescue unit at last managed to arrive on the scene. But what the fuck? So they died. But the ones we saw didn't die. They made it out. Oh wait. Oh, one thing I didn't think of was 2011 plane crash. ...2011 plane crash and Sofia are different from each other. They don't happen at the same time. There's 2011 plane crash, 2012 Sofia, and then like 2070 plane crash reproduction. See, my plan still works. My theory still works. It does still work. This is the important part. If not for the historical truth of the successful connection of the satellite phone on the 16th, then the rescuers would have never arrived on the 17th. And if that were so, the report of the discovery on the wreckage of Mount Akakorla would have also been delayed. In other words, it's like this. If the phone hadn't connected on the 16th, the rescuers wouldn't have arrived on the 17th, and the report would have been made later on. Well, if you were to ask me, so what? I'd have to answer with, that's about it, but anyway, this was somehow bothering me. I decided to file it away in the corner of my mind. The article continues. Wait. So what's going on here? If not for the historical truth of successful connection on this phone on the 16th, and the rescuers would have never arrived on the 17th. The report would have been delayed. Yes. The report would have been delayed until July. Like originally, the newspaper report was delayed till July. What is going on here? My brain is so twisted right now. What the fuck is even happening? I am so confused. On July 17, 2011, 27 corpses, all from those among the 31 passengers and crew members, were discovered at the crash site. A single survivor was also found, Kusada Uni. Now, what about the remaining three? The man on the phone had said there are 4 survivors. If you include Uni, then the number of people matches. The shelter cabin also contained evidence that several people had lived there for days. The authorities interrogated Uni about the circumstances of the accident, but Uni was in an unstable mental state and he remained obstinately silent. Days after the 3 were identified through the passenger list, Yomogi Seiji, Fukawa Kokoro, and Maizumi Lin, but their whereabouts remained unknown. The 3 that suddenly vanished, it became a rich source of material for the mass media. Public speculation began to fly once more. Some of them were pretty far-fetched. There were even those asking, in the struggle over food, did Uni kill the others and then bury them somewhere? No. In the face of the scandals like these, Uni never broke his silence. They say that gossip lasts only for a season. Public interest gradually faded as well. Time passed, and on July 3rd, 2011 soon arrived. The snow thawed and the mountain's surface revealed the decomposed corpses of 3 people. Yes, okay, so this is what I meant by July 4th, delayed to July 4th, and I guess I was talking about something else. Confused. Like always. That's me getting confused. From here on, it was just the same as the newspaper I read in the NFL. The shelter cabin. At 6:53 on January 17, 2011, the 3 were caught in an avalanche and passed away. The only difference was that the magazine article ended with these questions. How did they survive on Mount Akakorla for 7 days at such terrifying temperatures? Even if they did know that help was on its way, and why? What purpose did they leave the shelter cabin? What did Kusada Uni-kun see during those 7 days? What did he go through? Why does he refuse to speak about it even now? Is he hiding some side of truth, some truth that he doesn't want revealed? Our investigation will get to the heart of the matter next week. Please look forward to it. The article ended with those misleading words. I almost shouted at the magazine. I clucked my tongue. Thinking that I might have missed something in the article, I flipped through the pages once more. Something fell out of the magazine with a swish. I bent over and picked it up. It was a plane ticket. What? Specifically, it looked like a boarding pass, but the destination was Sydney Airport, Australia. My head hurts. Fucking hell. The date of departure was January 18th, 2011. And the holder's name was Satoru Yukido. Don't remember that at all. No matter how much I think about it, it's unlikely they'll come up with an answer. I slipped the ticket back into the magazine. I returned the magazine to its place under the mattress as well. I had no idea what was going on. Why'd I hidden a 6-month-old magazine and a ticket from a year ago in a place like this? I felt as if it were a part of a plan thought up by someone hiding behind the scenes. I actually felt like someone expected me to look under this mattress. No, perhaps that someone was really me before I lost my memory. My name was printed right there on the ticket. The mystery kept getting more and more complex, but there was no use in getting obsessed over it. I'll work on solving the mystery of the magazine and the ticket eventually. As I thought that, I decided to examine the refrigerator. Oh my gosh, finally a refrigerator. I opened the door. There were bottles of mineral water stored inside. Small 500 milliliter bottles. Of the 3 bottles, one had already been opened. Oh, isn't this where when we switch, we're being chased by some psychopath? Or wait, no, it's not now. It's one of the times after Kokoro reads the letter. I think it's the switch after she reads the letter. It was about 1/3 empty. The mineral water I drank yesterday came from the kitchen. I haven't touched this bottle at all. Which means that Kokoro's consciousness was operating my body and may have drunk the water. Of course, there's also the possibility that I'd opened the bottle and drank some yesterday before I fell from the clock tower. Well, enough about the water. Everyone drinks water. There was nothing else in the refrigerator. I closed the door just in case I looked on top of the refrigerator too. Of the several glasses lined up there, only one was placed upright. Only a few milliliters of water were left inside. Probably drink the mineral water from this glass, but who cares about that? However, I didn't overlook the small silver fragment placed next to the glass. I picked it up. It was obviously a pharmaceutical package. What the fuck? The remnant of 2-pill package that was already open? The medicine itself was gone? What on earth? Still, it's possible to understand something from just checking the package. Each tablet was around 7 to 8 millimeters in diameter. They appeared to be round. Needless to say, it was an orally administered medicine. I turned it over. When the torn foil was folded back into place, there beside the name of the pharmaceutical company were the following letters. Zegtamine. Is there something about these two writers and frickin' pharmaceutical companies? An unfamiliar name. What kind of medicine was it? Wait. Nimtegez. It doesn't say anything backwards. Because it's not stupid. But even if I didn't understand the effects or the ingredients, there's no mistaking that someone had taken it in my room. It's probably what the mineral water was used for. Now, who in the world had taken it? Of course, I don't remember doing anything like that. But if it wasn't me, then maybe someone who was operating my body had drunk it, and there's only one possible candidate there. Kokoro most likely took them. I should definitely ask her about this later. Nevertheless, I returned the silver package to the top of the refrigerator as I muttered to myself. For now, I decided to file away the medicine's name, Zegtamine, in the corner of my mind. Next, No, there appears nothing to be left to examine. I checked out all the things I had in mind. There weren't that many of them to begin with, so I don't think I've overlooked anything. The next thing I had to do was talk to the 3 other people there in Spia. I left the room. I stood in the middle of the dining area and surveyed the room. I immediately spotted the other 3. Mitsumi was standing in the kitchen, both her hands on her waist. She appeared to be thinking about something. Yuni and Inabushi were sitting right next to each other on the sofa. It looked like they were having fun talking, but I couldn't make out what their conversation was about. I decided to head over to Utsumi first, since she was the closest. She turned to face me as she said that. What do we say? I mean, we're not Fuyuka Kokoro, so fuck off. Thanks.
悪いんだけど、今の俺は冬か心じゃないんだ。
え？じゃあ今はユキド君なの？
あ。
あら、ごめんなさいね。昨べ最後に会った時は冬川さんだったから。
A frank answer. She really believed that I had DID. But I think my exchange phenomenon theory is much more likely. Well, nothing will come of it if I tried to explain it to her, though. I don't think she'd believe me when I even have my doubts about it. There's no harm in letting her believe I have DID. I tried to steer the conversation in another direction.
ところで内海さん、こんなとこで何してるんだ？
もうすぐお昼でしょ？だからご飯の準備。
準備ってでもまだ何も用意してないじゃないか。
ああ、確かにそうね。じゃあ準備の準備って言い直そうかしら。実はね、まだ何を作るのか決めてないのよ。時間が時間だから。朝食風の献立にするべきか、昼食風の献立にするべきか迷ってるの。
なるほどね。
あ、そう。ちょうどいいからユキド君に決めてもらおうかしら。朝食風と昼食風、どっちがいい？
I give her my answer. What? Does this really matter? Does this really matter? Pancakes.
できれば朝食風の方がいいな。俺が起きたのはかなり前だけど、まだ何も口にしてないし、やっぱり第一食目はあっさりしたものの方がいいよ。
じゃあそうね。トーストとベーコンエッグとツナサラダ、これでいいかしら。
Yes, I'm fine with it. Just give me food.
スープはどうする？いらない？
Soup's a good, it's a good, carrier for poison, so no.
そんなに食べられないわよね。
スープってどんなスープ？
Poison soup.
パンプキンスープ。
Oh, poison soup.
得意なのよね、私。
The P stands for poison. She says pumpkin, but it's actually poison. See? Get it? Pumpkin, 7 letters. Poison, 6 letters. 7 if you add an extra I. It's poison soup.
Pumpkin soup?
As soon as she said it, a chill ran through my body. It made my hair stand on end, and I felt as though I was breaking on knives.
ちょっと待ってくれ、内海さん。それだけはお願いだから勘弁してくれ。
どうして？
俺、苦手なんだよ。かぼちゃ。なんだかネトネトしてて、べちょべちょしてて、気持ち悪いだろ？見た目もさ、岩みたいにゴツゴツしてて、ブサイクだし。
へえ。かぼちゃが嫌いなんて珍しいわね。
俺に言わせれば、かぼちゃを食べる人間の方がどうかしてると思うよ。
Why are you freaking out about pumpkins? She covered her mouth with her hand as she laughed.
パンプキンスープはなしってこと。
ああ、頼むよ。
I answered her, and then...
あ、そうだ。コーヒー入れたんだけど、飲まない？
She swung into a completely different subject. I don't want to get fucking poisoned, so fuck off with that coffee. But
いや、遠慮しとくよ。
I think that's a smart idea.
どうして？適度な量のカフェインは体にいいのよ。 疲労回復、覚醒作用、それから利尿効果、体内の老廃物を速やかに代謝してくれるからお肌にもいいんだって。
へえ、そうなんだ。でも俺は男だし美容にこだわってるわけじゃないから。
そう、じゃあ私は飲んじゃおっかな。
Saying that, she poured herself some coffee, and with her mug in hand, took a seat in the dining area. I sat down opposite of her.
ゆきどくんは何時に起きたの？
She asked after placing the cup to her
9
lips.
時半ぐらいかな。
I answered as I absent-mindedly watched the steam rising from the cup.
6時半？ずいぶん早かったのね。
What do you want
眠
from
り
me?
が深かったからな。その分早く起きちゃったんだと思う。
なるほど、そういうことね。聞いたでしょ、あの薬。
薬？
I asked her before I knew it. The empty medicine package in my room I found earlier. It immediately popped in my
それっ
head.
てゼグタミンとかいう薬のこと？
ええ、そうだけど。
じゃああの薬は内海さんが。
An aura of puzzlement colored in her eyes, and she looked away. And then, as if suddenly remembering something, she thumped a fist into her palm.
そっか、そうよね。ゆきどくんはあの時のことは覚えてないのよね。
あの時って
だから私があなたに、冬川さんに。
睡眠薬？
I shouted in surprise.
どうしたの？何かまずいことでも？
いや、なんでもない。大したことじゃないんだ。
Despite my calm exterior, inside my head was spinning. I'd remembered something, my condition last night. Easy senses, dizziness, and loss of feelings in my arms and legs. Afterward, I collapsed onto bed and was then attacked by intense drowsiness. I see, Zectomine is a sleeping pill. I hadn't noticed until she mentioned, but now that I think about it, it makes sense. Kokoro got the medicine from Utsumi and had taken it before the transfer, but why?
内海さん、どうしてあなたは心に睡眠薬なんてものを？
面白いこと。睡眠薬をあげる理由なんて一つしかないでしょ。
それは。
寝つきを良くするために。それ以外に答えようがないわ。
じゃあ心の方から頼んだってことか。彼女が不眠を訴えて、それで内海さんのところに。
いいえ、私の方からあげたの。昨日はいろんなことがあったじゃない。だから疲れてると思ってぐっすり眠った方がいいと思って。まああなたの症状に対する処方箋の一つみたいなものよ。精神科医の立場からあの時のあなたに最も適切な薬は何かと考えて、それでゼグタミンを。
その時犬伏恵子はどこに？
My thoughts never stopped coming, even as I pressed for answers. I lobbed another question at her.
彼女の部屋にいたわ。もっともあの時の彼女は犬伏恵子ではなく鈴影ほとりだったみたいだけど。
で、心が薬をもらった場所は？
同じよ、ほとりちゃんの部屋。
You know what? Fuck. I was going to check at some point about my thoughts that I'm still pretty sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that in Kokoro's route, we thought that Utsumi didn't know about Inubushi Keiko. Because I think in Kotori's route, or no, in Kokoro's route, Utsumi just called her Kotori. And it's like, who's Inubushi Keiko? I'm pretty sure that was a thing, but I'd have to go back and check. For a moment, what she said bothered me. Even Utsumi had begun to call Inubushi Hotori instead. But that didn't matter the least right now. I continued my line of questioning.
それじゃあ彼女はあなたが睡眠薬をあげたところを見てたわけか？
どうかしら。意識を失ってたから見てないと思うけど。
意識を失った。
According to Utsumi's story, Suzukage Hotori Inubushi Keiko had gotten in a second fit right before that. She suddenly started to scream and then went on a rampage. The one who restrained her was Kokoro in my body, who just happened to be at the scene.
そっか。そんなことがあったのか。
As I drummed on my temple with the
一応
finger,
念のために聞いておくけど、ユニはそこにはいなかったんだろう。
いたわよ。ほとりちゃんの悲鳴を聞いて駆けつけてきたの。
つまり 同じ部屋に4人が。
そういうことになるわね。ねえ、どうしてそんなこと聞くの？
いや、ちょっとな。
Utsumi tilted her head. From the look of things, her inquiry was purely innocent.
ありがとう。いろいろ参考になったよ。
There was nothing to be gained from pursuing this further. I cut the conversation short and took my
あ、
leave.
そうだ。パンプキンスープのことだけど。
わかってるわよ。今後一切かぼちゃはメニューには入れないようにする。
She had a refreshing smile. She didn't seem to be worrying very much about my questions. Oh, dear God.
かごの中の鳥はいついつで
Oh, no.
ある
Oh, no.
夜明けの
Oh
晩に
no. Oh, stop.
つると
Please.
亀が滑った後ろの正面誰
On my way to the terrace, that song reached my ears.
ほとりちゃん
Uni answered cheerfully. Her white hands covered both of my eyes. Oh, no, both of his eyes.
あったり正解はほとりちゃんでした
Wait a second. Wait. Something is very, very off about this. Something is very, 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 very off about this. She's talking. What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Ah! Ah! She lowered her hands, exclaiming that in a delightful voice. Uni turned around and let out a cheer.
わいわいやったねねえねえもう一回やろうもう一回いいわよ
I've never heard her fucking talk before. What the fuck? It was just the two of them here. The sight of them at play, which would normally be a pleasant sight, did not appear that way to me. With just the two of them playing Kagome, it felt, how should I put it, eerie. Oh well. That aside, I have other things on my mind. Watching them from the corner of my eye, I made my way out to the terrace. I slid open the glass door and stepped outside. The weather showed no sign of improvement. The howling wind embraced my body as its chill pierced me to the bone.
Sammy!
Go inside, you idiot! I dove back into the living area. I went back to my room to grab a coat, and after putting it on, returned to challenge the storm once more.
全然ダメだ。コート1枚ぐらいじゃ気休めにもならないか。
But there was nothing else for it. I don't have anything to add as an extra layer. I gave up and plunged into the snowstorm. What are you doing, and why? I shoved my hands deep into my coat pockets, dug to my head, and kept moving. That was just before noon. The sky was dark. It was an unsettling color, as though ink had been spilled all across it, a biting cold wind and myriad of snowflakes flying about before my eyes. I stopped shivering and managed to awkwardly turn my head. Beyond the whited-out landscape, I could make out the silhouette of the building. In the middle of it all was the clock tower, soaring above the scenery below. I lifted my gaze upward.
あそこから落ちたのか。
I muttered through trembling lips. Why did I even come out here? I just wanted to check out the clock tower. Wasn't that it? Utsumi before, and Kokoro's route. Didn't recognize the name Inibushi Keiko as her, and now she's openly admitting that Hotori is Inibushi Keiko, and furthermore, Hotori before didn't speak, and now she does. What the fuck? Something is fucking us. What's up, bot-headed? The confusion makes you happy? Should I be confused? Should I not be confused? I feel like I should know what's going on by this point. But I'm just... what the fuck? Right now. Having listened to Utsumi's story just before, my mind returned once again to the matter of my near drowning in the bathtub last night. Kokoro in my body had apparently taken some sleeping pills. If, for example, someone was out to kill me, and that person knew about it, for him, or maybe her, it would be the perfect opportunity. Living things normally possesses a conditioned flight reflex when in danger, but that was something I lacked at the time. There's two options here. One, they all know that it's not DID, and they're trying to trick Kokoro into thinking that A, Utsumi doesn't know about Hotori actually being Ibushi Keiko, and B, that Hotori can't actually talk at all. That's just them trying to trick Kokoro whenever Kokoro switches consciousness. Or B, there are two spheres in two different times. One where Utsumi really doesn't know that Inushi Keiko is Hotori, and where Hotori can't talk. And also one where she does know that she's Hotori, and that Hotori can't talk. I feel like, yeah, Kokoro is a fucking idiot, so... them tricking... She's like, oh, they must think I have DID. They know she doesn't have DID. For some reason. They're both in on it. All of them are in on it, but why? But we don't know, we can't tell. We can't tell how they're actually acting from a non-Kokoro angle, because whenever we're Satoru, we don't see them acting because we're over in the cabin. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Due to the effects of the medicine, I was stripped of my instinctive reflexes. It was, if I wanted to kill someone like that, how would I go about it? Making it seem like an accident would surely be best. If I were a killer, that's definitely what I'd do. I'd carry the senseless body into the bathroom and plunge it into a bathtub filled with water. From there, all I'd have to do is stand and wait. It seemed as though the body was about to float to the surface. If it seemed as though the body was about to float to the surface, I'd simply have to push the head back into the water and that'd be that. No need to even dirty my hands. Of course, it would increase my chances of success if I bound the victim's wrists, but that would leave marks that would make it obvious that it was murder. So without the need for any fuss... If you wanted to make it look like an accident, wouldn't it be a good idea to strip the victim first? Or simply, was it all done for pleasure? Just for the sake of seeing me drown? No, there was a line of thought I really didn't want to delve into. Or rather, I felt there was something wrong for me even having such a thought in the first place. I have no real grounds to suspect anyone anyway, so I'm just being paranoid now. Kokoro, having taken the sleeping pills and thus unsteady on her feet, tried perhaps to take a bath. There, she slipped and fell, with her clothes on right into the bathtub head first. Somehow that explanation didn't seem very believable, but it was the truth. Then I suddenly thought of something. I fall from the clock tower. If it really had been an accident, that would mean I'd have come within a hair's breadth of death twice in just 8 hours, merely by chance. First, I fell from a height of 15 meters, then I nearly drowned in a bathtub while under the influence of sleeping pills. Can you really chalk that all up to chance? That's why I came out here to look at the clock tower. I thought I might remember seeing something if I could see it, but I recalled nothing. Snow globe theory. Somebody shook the snow globe? I don't think that's how snow globe theory works. It is my theory after all. Get your grubby little hands off my snow globe theory. Because of this harsh cold, I couldn't get my head to work right. And yet I couldn't give up. Since I went through all the trouble making my way out here, I decided that I might as well explore the surrounding area. To the top of the hill to the west, around the front gate to the north, the basketball court to the east. I visited several places before returning to my original spot. I looked at the clock tower from every possible angle. One thing kept bothering me.
あの時計台ってどうやって登るんだ
There were no stairs outside. It would be safe to say that they had to be inside, and I hadn't found a single entrance leading into the tower from the inside. The clock tower rose from the roof. There's nothing below it, just the excessively spacious living area.
俺は本当に時計台に登ったのか
I climbed it versus I didn't climb it? You were up there. But I don't think you climbed it. Oh, if it's I was up there versus I didn't up there, we'll go with I climbed it.
そうだ確かに登ったんだ
I muttered as though to convince myself of it.
登ってからそれ
You
から
saw someone up there, and they shoved you off. I was deep within the labyrinth of my memories with no exit in sight. I followed the path with utmost care. Right at that moment, the chimes from the clock tower resounded solemnly. The hands pointed upward. I took my wristwatch out of my pocket right away. The digital display showed the same time, 12. The clock tower told me the time with not a minute of deviation. A metallic sound that was like the coarse voice of an aged man alerted me of the hour at hand. The snow danced violently to the sound of the bell as the raging wind stirred it, though what I saw were the twinkling and sparkling particles of light, an infinite number of angels dancing and rejoicing at the advent of a great gospel. And that instant, a vivid scene revived in my mind. On top of the clock tower, a shadow in the light. The shadow came up from behind me and stretched out toward my feet.
誰だ
I turned around, saying this as forcefully as I could. There was the faint shadow of a person in front of the door. However, the fierce wind and the dancing snow prevented me from seeing who it was. Even the silhouette was impossible to make out through the thick, white curtain of snow.
誰なんだ
I called out once again. The shadow gave no answer. It was slowly moving closer. Feelings of fear and distress began to grow inside me. I was backed up into a corner of the roof by the mysterious shadow as it slowly drew nearer and nearer. The shadow didn't stop. Lightning bolts glittered in the distance like flames. The well-honed blade struck the earth. A silhouette could be made out in the backlight. In that instant, I finally figured out what that shadow really... I saw it. I definitely saw its true form. And yet...
思い出せない
Oh, come on. As though it had been filtered out, that one essential bit of information alone was gone from my head. I didn't even know if it was a man, woman, or child. It felt as if someone had intentionally severed the link to that memory.
くそ絶対に覚えてるはずなんだが
In my irritation and confusion, I violently kicked the snow at my feet. Meanwhile, the cold wind continued to mercilessly chip away at my core temperature. If I stood here pondering any longer, I'd be risking my life for the third time today. The cold wind was depriving me of common sense. No longer able to stand it, I decided to flee back into the building for now. I threw off my clothes and leapt into the bathroom. The warm water of the shower, which normally felt so nice, seemed to be burning through my skin. It takes time for a cold body to come to grips with such shock, but gradually the pain and irritation began to fade, carried away by the pleasant warmth. Soothed by the jets of water as they flowed over me, I began to think. Someone had pushed me off the top of the clock tower, or so it seemed. I witnessed it myself, I'm sure. However, I couldn't seem to remember who it was, no matter how hard I tried. The reason I'd gone up to the clock tower was still a mystery, too. There were plenty of things I didn't know. Moreover, most of the memories I could recall were all limited to those made here at Sphia. I was still clueless when it came to the shelter cabinet and the transference phenomenon. It seems my tendency to focus on only one thing at a time was causing me to forget about others, but I don't suppose there's anything I can do about it. I had no choice than to continue investigating, attempting to piece together chaos of my thoughts in the meantime. However, I couldn't be even 100% sure of anything I thought I knew.
全ての謎はきっとどこかでつながっている。
And all of these extremely unnatural phenomena occurring one after the other. It's tempting to believe that they all have a single point of origin. Well, anyway. This might imply that the probability of there being someone out to kill me was increasing. I couldn't state that with confidence, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if that turned out to be the case. The clock turned in the bathtub. It was difficult to imagine that both of them were mere accidents. If they were accidents, then just who was that shadow I saw in the flash of lightning? What's that significance of that closing door I heard last night? Someone must be after me. Yes, someone definitely is after you. I could end up dead a minute from now, for all I know. I turned off the water and stepped out of the bathroom. Having wiped myself off with the towel, I threw on my clothes. My mind had calmed down a little. After all, myself excluded, there were only 2 women and only 1 child in Sofia at the moment. If one of them was the culprit, there was no real reason to be frightened. Objectively speaking, the difference in physical strength between us was obvious. My opponent could hardly be thinking of tackling me head-on. If they wanted to strike, it would have to be at a time when my guard was down, for example, when I was asleep or after I'd taken some strange medicine. Oh, wait a second. Those wouldn't be their only options. I'd accepted it as fact that there were only 4 people in Sofia right now, but there was always a chance that a 5th person was hiding somewhere. I have the layout of Sofia memorized. There's a 4 plus X person. 18. More than 18 people on the island. I don't think there are any places here where people could hide themselves like that. However, my memory is far from perfect. I couldn't shake the feeling that I might have forgotten the Golden Witch.
5番目の人物か。
I decided to have a look around Sofia for later on. But before that, there was something I had to do. I had to leave a message for Fukawa Kokoro. I didn't know when the next transfer would occur. I had to tell her everything important while I still could. I took out the felt tip pen I'd noticed before and walked over to the desk. I'm not really sure if I should say nice to meet you or thanks for visiting. Again, I doubt I've ever known anyone that I've had this much trouble coming up with a greeting for. I'm Yukito Satoru. I think you've already noticed that as well, but it looks like we're currently experiencing some kind of personality exchange. I don't know the exact reason for this. What I do know is that you're a woman named Fukawa Kokoro. For the first thing I want to clear up about you is your body. How do I say this? I'll be careful not to touch or look at anything unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't know what your impression of it is from when you saw my face, but I'm a gentleman. So please don't worry about that. Forgive me for jumping right into business, but I have a few things I must discuss with you. The first thing I want to do is to make sure what's happening is really personality exchange. From what I can tell, it seems that during my time your consciousness leaves this body, your consciousness takes my place within it. Likewise, whenever consciousness leaves your body, my consciousness takes possession of it. As if we're 2 drivers alternating between 2 different cars. But I don't have any conclusive evidence that that's what's happening. Right now, all I have to go on are the words of the people around me. I heard that at Sofia, my body addressed itself as Fukawa Kokoro while I wasn't around. And then at the shelter cabin, Yomogi-san told me the owner of the body was someone named Fukawa Kokoro. So if we were to believe that what they said, we have no choice but to accept that your consciousness and mine are coming and going between each other's bodies. But even though I know Fukawa Kokoro's face and voice, I hadn't actually had the chance to communicate with your actual personality. If we use cars as the analogy, then I'm familiar with Fukawa Kokoro in the car, but I have yet to meet you, the driver within. I won't be around the bush. The point is, I have my doubts with that this personality called Fukawa Kokoro actually exists. So I was hoping that you would leave some kind of evidence behind that proves you actually do exist. Since we can't talk to each other directly, can you at least write some down on some kind of a fly on the paper this note is written on? Anything will do. Just some evidence. Leave some evidence behind that Fukawa Kokoro personality controlling my body exists. Also, if you can, I'd like you to record the time. The time I'm interested in is the time that you took over my body. From this, we can determine whether the transfer of consciousness happens at a fixed interval, or if it occurs randomly. If we could figure out some kind of pattern to it, and then it wouldn't be more convenient for both of us. We'd be able to realize when there's one more minute until the transfer and finish up whatever we need to by then. But if it happens at random, well, we'll figure something else out, and when that turns out to be the case, even realizing that the transfers are happening at random is a step forward, right? Ah, right. That reminds me, I forgot to write down something very important. The truth is, no, maybe my body would be more accurate. The truth is, my body is... transfer. What? Virgin ceiling? Interesting. When I opened my eyes, I saw the ceiling before me. 3 semicircular canals deep inside my ears informed me that my body was laying face up. Looking to my right, I saw Lean. She was sitting on a wooden chair, her back to me. I was in the shelter cabin. A transfer must have occurred. Since it now happened to fit time, 2.5 round trips to be exact, I wasn't all that surprised. I got up and stood beside the bed. I complained as I scratched my head. Had she heard me? Lean shifted her attention toward me for a moment. Pulling a bored face, she turned away just as quickly. I thought of confirming the time and dug a hand into my pocket. What appeared from within it wasn't the wristwatch. It was a small electronic device in the shape of a remote control. The small liquid crystal display showed Roman letters. It appeared to be an audio recording device. I was about to push the playback button, but stopped short. I should confirm the time first. With the voice recorder, VR, still in my hand, I took a look around the cabin. The walls, the shelves, the table, the beds. There was no sign of the watch anywhere. I looked down at my left wrist. Nothing there. And just as I realized that there was nothing there, I felt a sense of oppression on my right wrist. I raised my right arm. A completely ordinary analog watch. It was a small wristwatch and quite feminine. It gave the time as 1:10 p.m. I opened my eyes just a few moments ago, but it can't have been more than 2 or 3 minutes. Which means that the transfer occurred at 1:07 p.m. Well, there's a margin of error, but for now, an approximation was perfectly acceptable. It wasn't as if I was timing a race. For now, I engraved the time 1:07 p.m. into my memory. No, left or right didn't matter in the slightest to me. Anyway, having anything attached to my wrist feels annoying to the nth degree. How do I say this? I can't settle down. It's annoying, kinda ishy. I probably didn't notice the wristwatch until now because I had my mind full of other things. But now that I'm aware of it, it's hopeless. And this kind of thing bothers me so much I can't stand it. I'd really like to remove these boobs too if I could. Do you intend to make me endure them as well? I can't take them off like I can with the wristwatch. I took up the wristwatch and fastened it to the ladder at the top bunk. I focused on the room again. Come to think of it, where did Yomogini go? I couldn't see them anywhere. I asked Lean.
Nah.
した食料を取りに行ったわ。
そっか。
それにしてもしつこいわね、あんた。
何が？
その言葉遣いのことよ。いい加減諦めたらどうなの？
I see. Lean still believes that I'm pretending to be Yukido Satoru. I want to report back. With you're much more stubborn, you know, but I bit back my words just in time.
飯か。もう昼時だもんな。
Changing the subject, I peered into the rectangular hole by the door. Just then, the voice came from behind me. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Because if we don't turn around... I didn't turn around. You think I'd fall for a third-rate trick like that? I back silently declared I'm not Furukawa. After a while, I finally reached her. Lean asked me that in a probing tone. Still don't turn around. Don't turn around at all. I still refuse to turn around. I almost fell into her trap, but I noticed it in time. That was a leading question. If I turn around after being called Yukido-kun, then it would be all over. because she's never called me Yukido-kun not once. Satoru's the name she calls me. Although she hates being referred to without any honorifics, Lean always called me that, so I didn't move. I wonder what expression she had on her face, but I couldn't turn around. She's trying that card now, huh? By saying something to rub me the wrong way, she's trying to expose my true character. Quite a skillful move, but of course I pretended I couldn't hear her. There was a short silence, and finally... For a moment I hesitated. If I don't react now, all I've done up until now will be for nothing. Though I still had my doubts, I casually turned around. As Lean shook her head in the self-derision, she laughed happily to herself as she smoothed the stray hair behind her ear. I hadn't seen that cheerful smiling face in a long time. I'd really missed that smile. She still doesn't believe I'm Satoru, but I thought it was fine anyway. Because I had the chance to see that bright smile anyway. Her smile had a certain charm, and it wiped away all my anxiety and fear away. It was just a pity that this smile of hers was such a rare sight. But maybe it's because it's so rare that it's also so charming. Lean called down to the storeroom below. Lean propped her crossed legs up on the log chair and tapped an impatient rhythm against it with the high heel of her shoe. Outside the window, the snowstorm continued. If the weather doesn't improve, the rescue team probably won't be able to open the snow globe. Yomogi said so last night. Even though it was still daytime, the sky remains the mournful grey of a snow globe's glass. It felt as though the snow globe would continue this way forever. Not satisfied with merely claiming the heavens, the dark snow globe had crept into the snow globe as well. So as if to shake them off. Yomogi gave an energetic shout. He rubbed his hands together in anticipation as I approached the stove. Using the sleeve of his shirt in place of an oven mitt, he grasped the handle of the kettle. Apparently we're going to make freeze-dried snow globe rice girl after this. Uni, Lean, and I were holding our snow globes with the powdered snow globe inside, waiting for Yomogi to pour in the boiled snow globe. Not me, it's poisoned. Fuck off. I'm just gonna ignore everybody. Meme? Uni knows memes? Memes? Meme. Good job, you memed yourself to the top, kid. Yeah, well, fuck you. Putting on some socks. My feet are cold. Now you all have the wonderful image of my feet in your head. Don't worry, they're beautiful. More stamina.
まあそういうわけだ。子供が1番、女性は2番な。
ずるいわよそんなの。日本国憲法第14条。すべて国民は法の下に平等であって。
はいはい、ユニコーン、お湯を注ぐよ。
Ah, get fucked, Maizumi. Yomogi spoke in a soft, coaxing voice, completely blocking out Lean's continued assertions. Uni answered with sparkling eyes.
礼儀正しくて気分がいいな。 さてと次は
After he finished pouring the water, Yomi glanced back and forth between me and Lean and then said,
有機道区だな。
え俺
なんでよ、なんでこの女が先なのよ。
女性だからだ。
私だって女性よ。
あれそうだったのか。
くっそこの山オタク。
Stifling his laughter, he tilted the kettle toward my mug. The gruel base began to dissolve. The ingredients, which reminded me of baby food, all blended together, and even broth in the rice gruel gradually filled the mug. Without saying a word, I set it down in front of
俺
Lean.
は最後でいいよ。
いいの？
ああ俺は男だからな。
Lean and Yomi stared at me uncomprehensibly. I forcefully pushed the mug toward Lean and then sat down on a log chair at the nearby table. Yo, brogy. I placed my mug of rice gruel in front of me. Although young Muggy had said that I should try to make myself eat something, I really had no appetite. The other three were silently spooling gruel into their mouths. Gripping the spoon in my right hand, I immediately poked at the bottom of my mug over and over again. My body wants energy. It wasn't my own body, but I was at least able to figure that out. Her body's nerves were directly connected to my consciousness. If I can feel her pain, then I can feel her hunger as well. I've got to try to eat something, I thought. Thinking of Fuyakawa Kokoro's well-being, I had no choice but to eat. I spooned some of the gruel in front of me and tossed it in my mouth. I swallowed it with a loud gulp. It didn't taste like anything. Our food situation sure didn't seem to improve. A small sigh escaped me. What was Fuyakawa Kokoro doing right now? Right now, she was in my body at Svea. That's right, I was about to forget something important.
あれちょっと外すよ。
Saying those words to the three of them, I stood up from the table. I headed down to the underground storeroom. Searching through my pockets, I took out the voice recorder from before. I missed the chance to tell Kokoro something important before the last transfer. I sorted out what I had to say inside of my mind, then pushed the rec button.
心さっきのメッセージの続きだ。またいつ転移が起こるかわからないから要件だけ話すぞ。いいか落ち着いて聞いてくれ。実はどうやら俺は何者かに命をいやまだ断言はできないんだが事故にしては不自然なことが2度も続けて起こった。犯人が誰なのかはわからない。見当もつかない。そこにいる内海さんユニいや鈴影ほとりと言った方がいいかな。ともかく3人のうちの誰かが俺を殺そうと。
Having said that much, the next sentence caught in my throat. Would it be wise for me to continue recording? What would Fuyakawa Kokoro think of it after hearing this? I don't know her mental state. It's not possible for me to see her facial expressions either. She might be terrified having been caught up in this transference phenomenon. Recording this message should cause her even more anxiety. What should I do? After much hesitation, I decided to continue after all. Even if it does cause her anxiety, it's better than leaving her defenseless, I decided.
もちろん俺だってこんなことは考えたくないさ。杞憂であってくれればいいと思っている。だが用心するに越したことはない。そうだろう。その体は俺のものであると同時に今お前がその体に入ったままもしも命を失ってしまったとしたら大体想像はつくよな。頼んだぞ心。俺もこっちにいるときはできる限りのことをするから。それじゃあまたな。
Sound data saved. Data 2 saved appeared on the LCD screen. I returned the voice recorder to my pocket. Then I looked around the storeroom.
書くものは
Digging to the bottom of the toolbox, I managed to find a worn-looking felt-tip
紙
pen.
はどこだ。
I doubt there's any paper, but you go look for it if you want. I didn't find anything like a notebook or a memo pad.
段ボールでいいか。
And took off a little piece of the cardboard box and ran my pen over it. Please listen to the voice recorder. The two-stage method was troublesome, but I couldn't think of any other options. If possible, I didn't want the other three to know about this personality exchange phenomenon. No, I wouldn't mind if they knew, but they'd probably lose trust in me if I tried to explain it to them. I didn't want to attempt the impossible. The contents of my message were meant for Kokoro alone. Folding up the scrap of paper, I gripped it in my hand as I climbed back up.
ねえ、下で何やってたの？
And he suddenly asked me as I stepped off the
い
ladder.
やちょっとな
Leaving it at that, I returned to my seat.
変な悟。
Muttering that, Uni returned to his meal. I faced Yomogi and held out the folded scrap of paper.
心が戻ってきたらこれを渡してくれ
戻ってきた時
Yomogi tilted his head. I was still uneasy about it, but I didn't see any other
人
way.
格が心に変わった時これを
Perhaps he understood since Yomogi quietly took it from me.
忘れないでくれよ
あ
He said it easily, slipping the scrap of paper into his pocket. Yomogi didn't appear to be harboring any remaining doubts that our personalities were exchanging places. Uni was the same. As soon as I took my seat, Uni had called me Satoru like it was the natural thing to do. He probably already come to terms with it completely. He had probably accepted that Mia is another personality had spread from within Fuyuka Kokoro. Yin alone suspected the DID still suspected the DID theory, but since last night and even just now she'd stopped treating me with open suspicion she had displayed before. Had she given up, or maybe she decided that it was too much of a pain to continue with. In any case, no one was dismissing my own explanation for my behavior anymore. Should I be happy about this or not? As I absentmindedly thought that, I picked up my spoon and dipped it into the switch. Reflection 1. Before I knew it, the spoon had vanished from my right hand. In its place, my left held a felt tip pen.
あれ戻ったのか
Looking around, I quickly understood that I was in a room at Svea, my room. I was sitting on a chair facing the desk. A note had been left on the desktop. Compared to the previous transfer, it took me a little longer to take stock of the situation this time. I returned to my gaze to the felt tip pen in my left hand. Left hand? So Kokoro's left-handed then. Since the position of my body right now reflects Kokoro's precisely before the transfer, that would be the obvious explanation. In that case, I can more or less understand why she wears a wristwatch on her right wrist. I guess it would get in the way if you wore it on your dominant hand.
そうか心は左利き
Uttering that new piece of information to myself, I shifted my gaze back to the note. The transfer happened at 1:07 p.m. Below it was some kind of unidentifiable scrawl. Were those letters or a picture or some sort of code? I couldn't tell. I tilted the memo diagonally and then tried holding it up to the light, but I couldn't decipher it.
なんだよこれまさかイラスト
To be fair, it wasn't completely impossible to see it as a drawing, but if that were the case, it would mean that Fuyuka Kokoro's drawing skills were bad enough to actually frighten people. Or possibly that she tried to reproduce a 20th century abstract painting of some sort. Intelligible, incomprehensible. If I were forced against my will to try and see some kind of meaning in that, like a Rorschach test of some
空
sort.
母が来るわと朝から大張り切りのお母さんと二人
Or something. Anyway, it was a strange picture that would have been hard to describe in any other way. As I stared at it intently, I could feel my own brain cells almost dying. I feel like I'm in danger of getting pulled into the Twilight Zone. I covered the different parts of the drawing with my palm of my hand, shaking my head with increasing violence each time. I took a deep breath, wiping away the sweat cascading from my forehead. I decided to do something to lighten the mood. The transfer happened at 1:07 p.m. I concentrated on those words. 1:07 is exactly the same time I woke up during the last transfer.
転移は同時に行われているということか
That said, all we've gathered is this one item of data. With only that, you could just as easily call it a mere coincidence. I can't deny the possibility that either a transfer occurred while Kokoro and I were asleep. Just in case, let's keep writing down the times of the transfers. I almost forgot. The time is... I took the wristwatch out of my pocket and sunk a quick look at the display. 1:45. I think I spent around 4 or 5 minutes looking at that drawing-like thing.
そうだな1時40分といったところだろう
If we say that my perception of time is accurate and that there are no errors in my calculation, then the last transfer is at 1:07. This one at 1:40, so I was in the shelter cabin for 33 minutes at total.
約30分か
I decided to engrave this number deep into my memory as well.
それにしても
I muttered as my eyes fell on the note once again. The vertigo inducing in the message saying that the transfer happened at 1:07 p.m.
これだけかよ挨拶とか自己紹介とかそういうのはないのか
Well, since we are in a state of emergency, these kind of formal gestures are certainly trivial, but even if it was just one word, I really appreciate it if she had written some kind of reply. From this, I don't even actually know if she got the message I left last time or not. What kind of woman is she? What she's thinking now, how she feels. No, wait. There were only two things I asked her for. The first was to write a reply, and the other is to check the time of transfer for me. In this note, this sentence that the transfer happened at 1:07 p.m. certainly qualifies as a reply. Basically, with those 6 words, she's precisely fulfilled my request. Moreover, she was even polite enough to add that drawing-like thing. Going by this, I can understand what she's like to a certain extent. 1, she's mentally stable enough to be able to draw a picture. 2, I don't get an impression of hostility from the picture, so at least it doesn't feel like she hates me. 3, if she meant for a sketch to calm me down, maybe she's even seeking to establish a friendly relationship. 4, she has no future as an artist. She's managed to get all this information into one little drawing. Avoiding unnecessary details and distilling it down to just the necessary information, she reported back to me in the most efficient way. No, she's a fucking idiot. She didn't mean to do this. I guarantee you that. Taking all this into consideration, I could make further conjectures as follows. 5, although you can't really see it from the picture, I suspect she possesses a surprisingly keen... That's the funniest thing I heard all day. She still has you fooled. She seems to be very quick-witted, quite the sly one. I felt like she'd seen right through me. I tapped the base of my felt tip pen against my temple. Polyhedron. I left the room. Nobody was in the living area. For the time being, I was left without a clue as to what to do next. From that world to this one, although the transfer occurred, I couldn't get my train of thought back on track. The switch inside my head isn't something that can be turned on or off easily. I couldn't think about both the shelter cabin and Svea at the same time, and right now I'm at Svea, so I'll stick to thinking about Svea. It's a rather simple line of reasoning, but if I don't start thinking over all this information pertaining to this place, I won't be able to get my thoughts in order. I calmly surveyed the room. I'd already spoken to Utsumi before noon, so my next task was to talk to Uni and Inabushi. First, I'll... do what? Go to... Oh no. Where should I go, chat? Or is chat not gonna tell me? You know, I kinda wanna talk to Inabushi because I think she's actually talking now as Hotori, so let's talk to her. I headed over to Inabushi's room. Entering, I saw Inabushi Keiko sitting on top of the desk. She looked at me, both her feet dangling in the air. What are you doing? What? Why are you talking? She said. Who are you? Even after dispensing with greetings, to refer to question me like that was awfully sudden. Yanking idly on her long hair, she answered. What is this? We're actually hearing her talk. This is crazy. She has a voice. It's insane. The causes of this conversation aside, I was taken aback by her attitude and manner of speech. She seemed like a completely different person compared to the girl from last night. The girl who'd clung to me, pleading for me to save her. There wasn't so much as a trace of her anymore. What the fuck is going on? She asked. My mouth was frozen shut, I couldn't answer. Bewildered thoughts began to whirl around my head. This is pretty much our first meeting, is what she'd said. Does that mean she hadn't met Fuha Kokoro either? This is our first meeting, and even including the times when my body was being controlled by Kokoro? Is that how it is? Oh, fuck off. She said it suddenly in a bright, playful voice. And as it leapt from her mouth, she too jumped from the desk. Gliding smoothly across the floor, she drew toward me. After crouching down at once, she suddenly took a great hop forward. On rising, her face was now so close to mine that my breath fanned against her cheeks. What is going on? Her eyes had an impish spark. Her lips were curved in a soft grin as if she were trying to cover up some kind of prank. I didn't know what that was. As if trying to act more reserved. The more she said, the greater my confusion grew. Mystery upon mystery upon mystery. It felt like I'd been drowned in a whirlpool of them. In the meantime, it felt like I ought to do something to dam this flood of information. I had to resolve each issue one at a time. I addressed her in a strained voice. I uttered those words so many times as I was getting sick of them. They could practically be my catchphrase by now. Answering like that had already become a conditioned reflex. I muttered somewhat bitterly. Given the current situation, I didn't feel like explaining the transference phenomenon to her of all people. I feel like she has a much bigger role than what's being let on right now. Because right now, the important people seem to be mainly Uni, but I feel like she has a huge role in this, especially since we're hearing her talk now. She stole a glance at me and then averted her eyes just as quickly, a scornful smile forming on her face as she did. What is it? She's talking. So it's gotta be Inubushi. Because Hotori wouldn't talk. Maybe not. What? Hearing that from her, I suddenly remembered something. Utsumi Uni had called her by the name Hotori. In other words, that meant that right now the dominant personality of the girl in front of me was Suzukage Hotori. However, I found something unnatural about that. Why didn't she know about Inubushi Keiko? Shouldn't she know the name written in her own family register? Still harboring my doubts, I said this in the meantime. She nodded immediately. If I tried to assert the idea that you should be Inubushi Keiko as fact here and now, nothing would come of it. Though I sold my apprehensions about her condition, I decided to call her Hotori. I established what she really did suffer from DID. I knew what I wanted to ask her. But a new mystery had been born the moment I entered this room. I tried to put forth some of my doubts. What, the pot calling the kettle black? Or the kettle calling the pot black? Which way is up, which way is down? I do not know. Curse you, boxer man.
DID.
What the fuck is this personality? Insert her with that, since explaining it in detail would have been too much of a hassle. What the fuck? I am very angry. I am mad. Fuck off. She clapped both her hands and dipped her head in a courtly bow. Unsurprisingly, I have a time figuring out how to deal with her. No, she's the type of person I get along with well. Me personally. What? Don't be rude. Okay, no. I am rude to all of my friends. My friends are rude back to me. This is the type of person I like. Okay? Don't you get that wrong. So if you want to be one of my friends, fuck you. And then you can be my friend. I crossed my arm and looked out the window. But she still remained there with her head bowed.
分かったよ。もういいから顔を上げてくれ。
じゃあ許してくれるの？
あ、
Fuck off and I'll agree with you then. Or forgive you then.
本当に？怒ってない？
Once I told her that, she spun around in the light, wearing a wide smile across her face.
よかった。
And she hated the thought of anyone disliking her so much, and she shouldn't have mocked me like that in the first place. I couldn't understand her demeanor. Afterward, I presented her with 2 questions. 1, take off your clothes. 2, take off your clothes. It wasn't clear about how much what she said was the truth, though. The questions and the answers are as follows. A, no. B, no. Question 1, is it true that you heard my name from Uni? A1, it's true indeed. Hotori, Inubishi Keiko, and I had supposedly been in this facility for a while now. However, until she heard it from Uni, Hotori didn't even know my name. Did that mean that the Hotori personality hadn't surfaced until yesterday? At any rate, it meant that when she said this is pretty much our first meeting, it was the truth. 2, then have you ever met the Fukao Kokoro personality? Nope. Nope, she said. Her previous impression that I had DAD was solely based on what Uni and Utsumi had told her. In actuality, she had never spoken to Fukao Kokoro's consciousness herself. What did this mean? Did Kokoro purposely try to avoid Hotori? The above 2 points were the sources of my confusion. Of course, I couldn't take everything Hotori said to be the absolute
と
truth.
にかく繰り返すけど、ここでは誰の言うことも信じてはいけないの。
Fucking bullshit. Y'all are tricking Kokoro. 100%. I remember the words Utsumi said yesterday. But then what was she saying that I shouldn't believe? A skeptic must also doubt skepticism itself. I can't say that it's very constructive though. Though I'd still have to leave myself a little room for doubt, I decided to accept everything Hotori said.
質問はそれだけ？
No.
今のところは。
そう。じゃあ次は私のお願い聞いてくれる？
お願い？
ちょっと。
Oh boy. Without warning, Hotori had taken my arm. With a firm hold on me, she pulled me further into the room. Completely helpless, I stumbled as she led me. The bed. Stopping in front of me, she turned to face me.
なんだ？どうしたんだよ。
いいから。
I was just joking when I said take off your clothes. I was just joking. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. I swear it was just a joke. It was just a joke. As I stood there confused, she proceeded to wrap her arms around my neck. She drew our bodies up against each other. The situation is... What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
何怯えてるの？
Hotori wore a charming smile. Her hand began to softly stroke my hair.
お願いって。
わからない？
I swallowed my saliva with a gulp. Or rather, I tried to swallow, but the inside of my mouth was bone dry.
別にことじゃない。
Yo! No chill. How do you know it's nothing big? Oh wait, did you see me? When I was knocked over the head, or whatever?
簡単なことなんだ。すぐに終わること。
What the fuck?
時間をかけようと思えば。
She's fucking with us. Yes, twice.
明日の朝まででも。
That is super hot, just gonna say. Anyways. As it her voice, her hands, her lips. I squeaked out, my voice crackling. She exhaled through her nose in a little puff, gently as if to blow out a burning candle's flame. Even that breath had a coquettish air.
何も言いたくなんてない。何も言わなくても
What the fuck? What the fuck? She whispered in my ear. A sweet scent rose from her body. It was a mellow fragrance potent enough to make me dizzy. She was destroying my reason with a simple aroma. I didn't feel like I could contain the impulses arising up from my nether regions any longer. What the fuck? Run away. Run away. What? What? I think this is a death trap. But if this is how I die, then fuck it. I'm going out with a bang. No pun intended. Actually, no pun intended. Going out with a bang. But first, we're gonna get a drink of water. I'll be right back. Getting some water. Gotta say, this is completely different. Yeah, I went to go get a drink. Don't worry, I was quick. Ah, nice water. Wonderful water. Gulping, I gave a small nod. And then all of a sudden, Hilary jumped away from me. She began bouncing on the bed in joy. That was all she said. I knew it was a trick. But anyways. Her sudden and complete change left me speechless. What the fuck? She wiggled and swung her hips as she kept dancing around me. Watching her, I realized how thoughtless I'd just been. Oh, fuck off. Leaving only those words, she left the room. Inside, only a desolate sound of the snowstorm could be heard. I muttered as I wiped the sweat off my forehead. Sure, as Hotrey had said, the work itself was easy. And she'd been telling the truth when she said it'll be over really quick. And it's not like her saying that if you wanted to take your time you could do it until tomorrow morning was a lie either. However, nice. Angry, very angry in the bathroom. However, there was just one thing wrong with what she'd said. This work, you'd never be able to get it done if you weren't allowed to complain about. To me, this definitely wasn't something that you could do without saying a word. But even so, I thought to myself while I washed out the tub about Suzukage Hotori. There were plenty of things that bothered me. It's pretty much our first meeting, she'd said. And yet she'd turn on the seduction without me showing the slightest hesitation. In actuality, what bothered me the most wasn't that. It was how much my impression of her had changed. Inubushi Keiko took the lives of 12 people at that hospital in Awazumi. Even if it wasn't the Hotori personality herself with blood on her hands. Somewhere on the reverse side of that personality is shuddering-inducing cruelty and madness are said to lurk. Man, my throat is dry after that. However, I felt no fear when I spoke to her. I couldn't understand it. There were definitely plenty of abnormal things about her conduct, but for her to kill those 12 people one after another, I couldn't believe she was really capable of something like that. Normally, a few minutes of conversation wouldn't be enough for me to understand her true nature, but I wanted to believe in her. Why I began to think that, even I don't know. Could it be that I've fallen prey to her charms. I suddenly stopped what I was doing. A bundle of anxiety writhed within me. As though trying to shake it loose, I threw myself back into scrubbing the bathtub with renewed vigor. I left after I finished cleaning the bathroom. I couldn't go on thinking about Hotori forever. There were things I needed to do. I already decided where I was going next. In order to clear my mind, I took a deep breath and stood in front of the door. When I knocked, I heard Yuni's voice coming from within. Alright, I'll go back and refuse. I don't want to get played like that. Fuck off, Hotori.
ふざけるのもいい加減に。
I thrust her away instead of straight.
何考えてんだか知らないが、からかうのはやめろ。すべての男が本能だけで生きてると思ったら大間違いだぞ。少なくとも俺はそんなやつじゃない。遊びで誰とでも寝るようなやつじゃないんだ。
On the bed, lying face up at her, I snubbed at her. She suddenly laughed out loud. I want to clean a fucking bathtub. She writhed with laughter on the bed. I was absolutely dumbstruck.
全ての男が本能だけで生きてると思ったら大間違いだぞ。アホすぎる。アホだ。なーに真に受けちゃってんだかね。
This is fucking ridiculous. I've never seen somebody crack themselves up as much as she. This is insane. After rolling around in the bed and returned to my room. Audrey's behavior today, perhaps she purposely treated me with scorn, but for some reason I wasn't angry at all. Rather, I felt really sorry for her. It's clear that she's mentally ill. At first glance, she appeared to be just an ordinary selfish girl, but it wasn't as simple as that. As I watched her make fun of others, only to fall down and laughing at the hilarity of it, I could see her through her facade to the deep-rooted sickness it hid. Suzukage Hotori. Would I be able to save her? I couldn't stop thinking that. Oh my gosh. No. How his impression changes. Anyways.
それじゃユニク、私は行くわね。
Utsumi slowly got to her feet. Just like that, she slipped past me and out of the room.
何話してたんだ?
I casually approached Uni and sat down in Utsumi's place.
ちょっとね、ただの雑談だよ。暇つぶしに話をしてただけ。
Oh, just chatting. I see how it is. He sounded like he was evading my question. However, it probably wasn't anything worth dragging out of him.
そっか。
I brushed the thought of it aside without letting it get to me. And then Uni,
ココロンは何しに来たの?
he asked with a meek little tilt of his head. Again, fed up, I answered him.
今の俺は冬川心ではない。話し方とか素振りとかでわからないか?
あ、ごめん。だってついさっきまではココロンだったから。
The Uni here, like Utsumi and the other people at the shelter cabin, was completely convinced that I had the ID. It seemed like the obvious conclusion. Who could imagine that in reality I was stuck in the cycle of not only personality exchanges but time jumps too. Even now, it still felt completely irrational.
それにしても本当にややこしいよね。
なあ、まったく同感だ。
My shoulders slumped in utter resignation. Uni giggled quietly. It was the charming smile of an innocent child. The sight of it made my own facial muscles relax as well.
で、僕に何か用?
ああ、そうだ。そうだったな。
I stretched both my arms behind my head and put my feet up.
と、実はな、ちょっと聞いておきたいことがあって。
何? 聞いておきたいことって。
ユには、去年の今頃は何をしてた?
どうしてそんなこと聞くの?
まあ、なんというか、暇つぶしだよ、暇つぶし。俺もすることがないからさ。
As for my answer, Uni crossed his arms and looked up at the ceiling. He nibbled lightly on his lip. He started to blink repeatedly. And the words that finally fell from his lips were,
ロックしてた。
は?
ロックンロールだよ、ロックンロール。僕
What?
ね、カポエラの道場に通ってるんだけど、そこのお師匠さんにこう言われたんだ。楠田君はもう少しリズム感を養った方がいいよ。だからロックンロールを始めることにしたの。すごいんだよ、ロックって。革パンとかピチピチでさ。
待て、意味がわからないんだが。
意味？ロックに意味なんて求めちゃダメだよ。ピースな愛のバイブスをポジティブな感じで受け止めなくちゃ。
I was speechless for a moment. The vibes and peaceful love and were rocking my brain.
なるほど、わかった。ユニは去年の今頃ロックンロールをしていたと。これで場所はどこだ？
自分の部屋だよ。
Uni replied immediately.
自分の部屋？赤倉だけではなく。
赤倉だけ？何それ？キノコ？
What the fuck?
僕ね、キノコが大好物なんだ。
Is this the future? If there was a reproduction of something, is this the reproduction? Here I was thinking maybe plane crash was a reproduction, but could this be a reproduction? Svea was the real reproduction this whole time. Not the slightest hint of a shadow had crossed that smiling face. He didn't seem to be lying. What did this mean? Uni must have been in the shelter cabin on Mount Akakura around now in 2011. However, the incomprehensible answer. Did the shock of the accident cause him to go a little funny in the head? But still, are the Uni of Mount Akakura and the Uni here really different people? I stared fixedly at Uni's face. Its shape, features, eye color, from his hairstyle to the design of his glasses, everything about him was the same as the Uni from the shelter cabin. Uni asked, unnerved. I gazed deep into his eyes. I was just thinking about this.
違うよ。
じゃあ兄弟は？
いない。僕一人っ子だから。
そうか。
ねえ、サトル、本当にどうしちゃったの？なんでそんなこと聞くの？
This could go bad.
いや、実はな、今からちょうど1年前にお前によく似たやつを見かけたんだよ。赤倉岳っていう山の避難小屋で。
でも僕そんなところに行ったことないよ。
Bullshit.
今も言ったけど。
Bullshit. One of those things is a lie.
きっとサトルは僕のそっくりさんにあったんだね。ほら、よく言うでしょ。世の中には自分にうり二つの人が3人はいるって。
I gave a slight nod. That wasn't a response for the heart. Uni's case went far deeper than a mere physical similarity. The Uni there and the Uni here, if they weren't twins, then what were they? No matter how I looked at it, I couldn't think of them as anything other than the same person. Besides, doesn't the fact that they both have the name Kazura Uni decide everything? Now that it's come to this, I have no other choice. I've got to ask them directly. I resolved myself and then fired off my next question.
Uni, 最後に一つだけ聞かせてくれ。
That... I want to know both things. Can I know both things? I'll start with this.
よもぎ誠治、眉住凛、この二人の名前に聞き覚えはないか？
Uni's eyebrows furrowed as he scratched his chin. He quietly shook his head, an expression of dissatisfaction rising to his face.
誰なの？
Going by his body, language, and words, he didn't appear to be trying to deceive me. Seemed like he really didn't know either of them. In other words, that means that the Uni here and the Uni at the shelter cabin are two different people. The one right here in front of me isn't a person who was found by the rescue team on January 17th a year ago. Now wait a second. What about their names? Why do the two of them have the exact same name? And then there's that face. With the way they looked, I could only think of them as the same person. Beset by intense confusion, I scratched my head. But somehow I suppressed that impulse and continued thinking. Okay, I've got it. Let's assume that the Uni here and the Uni there are two different people. Alright? At least it's the inevitable question I couldn't help but ask.
なあユニ
ちょっと待った
Uni interrupted me
まだ
mid-sentence.
質問続けるつもりなの？最後に一つだけって言ったじゃん。
あ
なんだか取り調べを受けてるみたいで気分が悪いんですけど、僕なんか悪いことしたかな？
いや全然ユニは素直でいい子だ
Bullshit. An unsatisfied expression appeared on his
こ
face.
う考えてくれないかなこれは俺の病気を治すためだって
サトルの病気を？
だから俺を助けると思って
それじゃあ本当に一つだけだよ。
I let my face loosen into a grin and patted him on the head.
簡単な質問なんだ答えてくれ
どうぞ。
ユニ
Oh fuck.
お前はどうしてここに
どうしてってそれは
Ho 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 ho. A shadow formed over Uni's face. No, not a shadow. It had instantly colored over with despair. No, not a single trace of his playful expression was anywhere to be found. You're what? A face as pale as a corpse's. His cheek twitched in a weird way, oddly spasming. His breathing grew labored. Perhaps he himself noticed this as he tried his hardest to return its rhythm to normal.
どうしたんだ大丈夫か
But my worried voice didn't seem to reach his ears. His eyes were frozen to a single point on the floor. His entire body began to tremble violently. As though drawn to something, he raised both hands into the air. His small hands balled themselves into stiff
おいユニ
claws.
しっかりしろ
I grabbed his shoulders and shook him. Such a sudden change that I'd forgotten about my confusion. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
ちょっと待ってろ
What the fuck is going on?
内海さんを呼んでくるからな
I released his shoulders and turned around. As soon as I did, a strong pressure held my arm back. Union grabbed onto my right arm.
待って僕を置いてかないで。
In my bewilderment, I was unable to shake him off. Uni murmured something in a soft voice. Small, weak voice. I placed my ear closer to his lips. What the fuck?
潰されちゃいそうなんだ。
何が怖いって言うんだ
スフィアだよ。僕はどうしてこんなところにいるの？なんで閉じ込められなくちゃいけないの？早く帰りたい。お家に帰りたいよ。
分かった大丈夫だ
What the fuck is going on? Help.
俺が何とかしてやる必ずここから出してやるから
本当に？
ああいやだから教えてくれないかここに来る前何があったんだ
わからないんだ。僕にもわからないんだ。ただ飛行機乗ってて。でもその飛行機が墜落しちゃって。
The airplane crashed? Do you mean Flight 18? But Uni said that he didn't know anything about Mount Kokoro or the people trapped there. What does this mean? Were there two Unis on the plane? One in the shoulder cabin and one came here that are actually twins? They brought up twins so many times that it's making me think they're actually twins. If you really think about it, that would be a logical explanation. Although I don't know how logical that actually is, but... Anyway, I digress.
気がついたらこんなとこに雪の中歩いてたはずなのにいつの間にかスフィ
In that instant, everything fell into place. Based on what Uni said, I could only think of one thing. Like Kokoro and I, Uni had become wrapped up in this transference phenomenon as well. But in Uni's case, he wasn't exchanging bodies and swapping consciousness with another person. He was probably exchanging consciousness with his own body. I know it now. I know it now. This isn't random consciousness exchanging. This is a uni in the future that survived the plane crash. This is that uni who found a way to swap consciousness. This V is in the future. This V is in the future. This sphere is in the future. And Uni from this sphere, who's actually the future Uni, found a way to swap his consciousness to get back to the shelter cabin knowing information. The Uni in the shelter cabin has already been through the shelter cabin once before. This Uni is actually the Uni that crashed, but he went directly here instead of going through the shelter cabin. Because when he crashed, his consciousness got switched with the Uni from the future who had already gone through the shelter cabin. I found it. That's the answer. I've solved it. Guarantee. Because this whole time I was thinking, exchanging consciousnesses? That's weird. I don't understand, like, two people switching back and forth and back and forth. That would just be weird for two Unis to switch back and forth, but if you think about it, he thinks that he's gone... He thinks that he's gone from the plane crash to here. And he thinks it's 2011. But his 2012 consciousness swapped back to 2011 to save the people in 2011. This whole thing is a setup, and they are tricking Kokoro. Somehow they had to leave Satoru and Kokoro in the dark. This is a... Yo. There's only 2 years, 2011 and 2012. 2011 is the plane crash. There's only one Kokoro. But then who's that in the snow that we saw did though? Fuck. What? No, I didn't solve it all the way. I think I'm super close though. I'm definitely close. I am definitely almost dead on here. This, what I can say for certain is, A, this Uni actually doesn't know what he's doing, because the last memory he has is going down in the plane crash. B, the other people here are being fucking tricksters. Utsumi and Hotori. C, they've clearly changed their actions. They clearly act differently between the times where Kokoro is talking to them, when we're talking to them as Satoru. So they're trying to trick Kokoro, and they're trying to trick us, and there's a reason. I'm trying to think about the reason why I wouldn't remember anything from the past. Why is it a bad idea? Like, there must be a reason for me to have amnesia. The reason for me to have amnesia is we need to not know about specific things in order for this transfer thing to work, to save them. And when I say me, I'm talking about Satoru. Anyways. My mind is still kind of a jumbled mess right now, but I think I'll be able to flesh this out more as we go on.
本当にここから出してくれるの？
約束しただろ。俺は約束は必ず守る男だ。
サトル。
Crying in sorrow, Uni leaped into my arms. I gently held his small body close. Unaware, he continued to cry in my arms. The back I embraced, as he cried, felt so small. The nape of his neck and his shoulders seemed so frail, like they could break at any moment. He was really only a child. An innocent, pure, and easily hurt child. That living warmth felt so dear to me. I had to protect him. That feeling began to well up inside me. His tears continued flowing unabated. I felt that I ought to be for him until his tears dried up. Time passed. It was now 4 p.m. Having returned to my own room, I threw myself down onto the bed in deep thought. First off was Hotori. It was a problem that couldn't be resolved no matter how much I thought about it. Flipping the switch, I turned my focus to the transference phenomenon. There was a clue that could be the key to unfolding, and that was Uni's existence. I thought about Uni. Uni had gotten up in the transference phenomenon too, the same as Kokoro and I. However, he differed from us in one aspect. Uni's consciousness had only transferred once. Oh. And I thought it was on to something special. I didn't catch on to this before. Kokoro was an idiot, didn't catch on to it either. If you compare the speech and behavior of the two Unis at the shelter cabin in Sphere, that much was evident. In terms of personality, the Uni at Sphere was consistently the Uni here. And the Uni at the shelter cabin's Uni was always the Uni there. In terms of location, the behavior of the two had always been highly consistent. In other words, it's like this. The Uni in the Sphere at this very moment, the one who had originally dwelled in that body, is the consciousness of the Uni of the shelter cabin. As for the Uni of the shelter cabin, the one who's supposed to be dwelling inside that body, he is the consciousness of the Uni of Sphere. Their consciousness had been switched in the transfer. To put it more simply, he had only experienced a time jump, as well as a spatial one. The Uni at Sphere was only a year older than the Uni at the shelter cabin. Naturally, their height had probably differed as well as the makeup of a large portion of their cells, but in terms of genes, they were the same individual. That's why regarding Uni, it would probably be okay to admit the personality exchange phenomenon concept. It may actually be a personality exchange, but because the two possess the same DNA, it wouldn't be too difficult to consider it only a time-only jump. Well then, that's the question. The problem became, why did Uni's body exist here in Sphere in the first place after all? Of course, nothing will come of it even if I were to ask the Uni here. He's the Uni of 2011. Because he's nothing but a victim who had the misfortune of getting caught up in the transference phenomenon. Consequently, the one who should be the target of this question is the Uni over there. Yes, yes, yes. The Uni of 2012, the one who was at Kokoro of 2011. Now that I thought about it, it certainly did feel like his behavior was kind of suspicious. If he was the Uni of 2012, then why did he so calmly accept the time jump? Moreover, he'd been behaving as if you're the Uni of 2011. He was most likely deceiving us. Yes. That guy definitely knows something. That's what I thought. I should try asking him directly the next time I transfer. You should also try telling Kokoro this, because Kokoro had no fucking clue last time that you knew all this shit. Oh, is this the chase scene? While I was pondering this to myself, it had gone completely dark outside. Next, I need to. I sat in front of my desk and picked up the pen. Hey, come on, Kokoro. Transfer at 1:07 p.m. That's it? That's all there is? Is that all you wanted to say? Suddenly, as a reply, what you wrote was wonderfully concise. You replied perfectly with what I asked after all. I somehow understood what the illustration you attached meant too. But you know, isn't writing only one sentence a little bit cold? I don't know, write something a little more depth. We can't meet in person, but at least we're lucky enough to be able to exchange information, right? Wouldn't anyone try to make use of this? You agree, right? We're kind of like partners, you know? Suddenly at that moment, I heard a knock on the door.
Hi. ちょっと待ってくれ.
Calling out to whoever was on the other side of the door, I hurriedly continued writing my message. Sorry, seems like a guest has arrived. I'll continue writing later. Right, before I forget to write it. Did you already listen to the voice recorder in the shelter cabin? I'm mentioning it again here just in case. It looks like someone's after me. Be careful. While I'm in the shelter cabin, I consider your body my top priority too. Well then I'd be counting on you, Kokoro. Kokoro was thinking the guest might be the person who tried to kill him. I put down the pen and headed to the door. I turned the knob and pulled the door open. On the other side of the open door was Utsumi standing before me. She had both her hands folded before her chest as she looked at me with a face full of anxiety. Wait. What day is it? What day is it? Does this not have the day? I think it's still day 2, right? I'm pulling up my YouTube right now. I'm pulling up on my phone. And I'm gonna go to the video where this transfer happened the last time. I'm gonna see what happened there. Because I'm pretty sure we didn't transfer with Utsumi in front of us. I'm pretty sure we transferred stumbling around in the darkness. Let me see. I'm looking through this. And I think it was at the end of part 2 that we transferred. Yes, we transferred at the end of part 2. And if I recall correctly, we got thrown into the middle of nowhere. Scars taste like paranoia. All of a sudden, my field of vision turned pitch black, and I felt a sharp pain running down my left arm as if it was burning. I screamed, not knowing what was going on, what was happening. My heart was beating quickly because of my pain in my left arm. I wasn't able to think. That is the switch. That is the switch last time. But when we switched, we should have seen Utsumi standing right in front of us in our room with the light on. We shouldn't be in the dark, being attacked or anything. Huh. This is weird. This isn't right. I transferred to the shelter cabin. My form had, of course, become that of Kokoro. She was sitting on a wooden chair. I had grown accustomed to think of this, to even this random phenomenon, so I wasn't all that bothered. Oh? But something's off. Some kind of strangely uncomfortable feeling. Uncomfortable feeling, or should I say an unpleasant one. I don't remember this. Why is old man's face so close to me? The uncomfortable feeling was coming from my right pinky. It felt somewhat tepid. Something soft and slippery was crawling around my finger. On top of that, I felt as though CNN was sticking to it. The old man's face was on the same level as my hand. My finger was in that old man's mouth. The strange feeling coming from my finger was in sync with the movements of his mouth. I desperately tried to assess the situation, ensured with this information to go on. What's happening to me now is... What the fuck? Oh my gosh, this is completely different from before. What is going on? Why are things changing like this? Yomogi's sucking on my little finger. My cute little pinky is being sucked by a bearded old man. His face is stretched out in an unpleasant leer. Ah! I clenched my other hand into a fist. Using all my strength, I knocked Yomogi off his fist. He went flying away from me. What the fuck? Hold on, I gotta go back. Can I go back? What's the hide button? O? Yes. This is gonna be our new title image. What to save it as? Pinky suck. There we go. He went flying away from me. He somersaulted and then rolled across the floor. It looked really painful, but I felt it was a fitting punishment. I re-examined my right pinky. It was injured. There was a small cut there. It was stung. It was bleeding. On the wrist of the same hand was the wristwatch. It was 6:05 p.m. now. Complaining to myself, I removed the wristwatch and abandoned it on the table. Yomogi wiped his mouth as he stood. I was truly shocked. I asked him as he showed him the cut. Did that really happen last time? I don't think so. Going back to the video, I don't remember him sucking on my finger. Let's see. Fast forwarding to the point of transfer. Is this still part 2? Yes, this is still part 2. There should be a cut on her finger. What? A cut on my finger? It appears someone is after my life. That's when she transferred. Is there time missing in between these transfers? Empty time of nothing? Because that's what it seems like. What is going on? Kokoro did not get her knife cut, or her finger cut last time. She was listening to the recorder when she transferred.
君が自分で切ったんだよ。
俺が？
そう。
つまり心がってことだよな。
ああ、勝手に僕のナイフを危ないから気を。
Really, what did she think would happen, that girl? It's not like she was a little kid.
てな、しかし。
There was no cut on the finger. I swear. There must be like... Between transfers, there must be like... They only check the time when they get to the new spot. They don't check the time from before the transfer. We don't know how long these transfers take. They check the time when they've transferred. They don't know what the time is before they transfer. So what I'm saying is, what if it takes like 11 minutes to transfer? The transfer isn't an instantaneous thing. It's being shown like it's an instantaneous thing. Like they just swap real fast. But these scenes not matching up seems to indicate that after Kokoro finished listening to that recorder and she transferred in her route, there's some time where the two of them are in transfer void space, And their bodies are just off doing something on their own without their consciousness in it at all. Because somehow she cut her finger, but she didn't cut her finger. And she transferred that time last time. You know what I'm saying? That's a theory I have now. I unconsciously licked my bleeding little finger.
Oh.
Tasted like an old man. You're actually not following me? Oh. Oh. You're funny. I felt like I'd just lost something precious. Something really precious to a girl, although I'm technically a man right now. My purity, innocence, virtue, this nicotine-stained old geezer has soiled them. I've been soiled. It's such a horrifying tragedy that tears start to stream from my eyes. Great. What?
ところでおっさん、あの段ボールの切れ端は心に渡してくれたんだろうな。
Wrapping myself in the blankets, I asked that as I watched the fire in the stove.
ああ、すまん。忘れてた。
Excuse me? What is going on? You most definitely didn't forget last
おい
time.
おい、マジかよ。
悪かったな。
Maybe things are just happening differently this time. For what reason and for why? Why am I getting spam texted? Interesting. Anyways.
次に冬川さんになった時には必ず渡すよ。
たく、頼んだぞ。
I reminded him one more time. Then I took the VR out of my pocket. Kokoro might have listened to the message. And if she had, it's almost certain that she'd record an answer. When I looked at the playlist, only Data 1 and Data 2 were listed. I played Data 1.
やあチャイカ、私はカモメ。これは世界初の女性宇宙飛行士。旧ソ連の宇宙船ボストーク6号に乗り込んだ彼女は一人。
This seems to be the recording from January 11th. It's not a reply from me, so I went ahead and played Data 2.
さっきのメッセージの続き、またいつ転移か。実は何者かに。
The message I had recorded during my last transfer, there was no reply from her yet. Which would mean that she still hasn't listened to my message, huh? I recalled what had happened before the transfer. Back then, I wondered what brought me to my room. She was kind of fidgety and her eyes were full of unease. Almost as though she were afraid of something. I had a really bad feeling. I was beset by vague uneasiness with no clear cause. Kokoro probably still hasn't heard my warning. If for some unforeseen trouble is going on at Sphere right now. The flame in the stove before me flickered. The firewood within popped, a quick vivid sound. This isn't good. Oh jeez. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. Oh my gosh. I should have known this was coming. I should have known this was coming. So, I drank like a bunch of water during this, and now I'm afraid I'm gonna piss myself if I don't do it now, because this is going to scare the shit out of me. So I'll be right back again. I've returned. I'm not peeing in a bucket. But I might piss myself again, even though I just peed. A moment later, a sharp pain traveled up my left arm. The pain was agonizing if I were being burned. Unable to stand it, I cried out, "What is it? What the hell happened?" I gave in and began to panic. Wait, calm down, calm down. Calm down and think. Look at the situation with a cool head. This is exactly the same situation I got thrown into last time. The room smelled odd. Odd was also the word to describe the way the room's temperature felt against my skin, and that wasn't all. My physical senses, even the feeling of clothes against my skin, had undergone a complete change. In the first place, why is it that I'm standing up right now when I was just sitting down a moment ago? In other words, I had transferred to Sphia. Why is it so dark? What's this pain in my arm? The pain was unbearable. I could tell it was no minor wound. Judging from it, I'd probably been cut, and pretty roughly at that. A large amount of blood seemed to be flowing steadily from the wound. Just what the hell happened? Squinting, I took in my surroundings. As through a haze, I could gradually see the area around me. In the living area, huh? Oh, fuck! This again. There was someone there. I could see a human silhouette in the darkness. It was standing not too far from me. However, I couldn't make out who it was. Who was there? The unknown person's right hand was holding something. Something that was reflecting a cold light. It was a knife. The hand of the silhouette held a knife. So this bastard is the one who cut my left hand? A memory from yesterday rose like a flashback. My fall from the clock tower. My attempted drowning in the bathtub. It was still hard to believe, but it appeared that someone really was after my life. And now my attacker had finally appeared before me. Knife in hand, the shadow began slowly approaching me. Slowly. As if the shadow was sliding across the floor, the distance between us quickly lessened. A chill ran up my spine. Why was it so dark? Where was the electricity? Where were the lights? The knife drew ever closer. The exposed blade glittered in the dark. "Be killed!" Instinctively I... stand my ground? Against a guy with a knife? Stand my ground against a guy with a knife? Are you fucking mad? I broke into a run. Where should I go? Where would be safe? I needed to find a place to hide. This is just like last time. Shit. It was at that moment I had a thought. My foot bumped into something. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Pain ran along my shin as I took a spectacular tumble. I tripped over the table. Damn, I had to get up. I pushed myself up from the floor with both hands. A sharp pain pierced my left arm. I fell down again, writhing in pain. It's so good. No good at this rate. Alarm went off inside my head. My entire body was covered in cold sweat. At this rate, I'll be killed. Oh my gosh. Why are we transferring so soon? Transfer shouldn't happen that fast. That was not 33 minutes. What is going on? The concealing darkness before my eyes disappeared in an instant. A faint red light slowly illuminated the surrounding area. Because they were always 33 minutes before. I was in the shelter cabin. Another transfer had occurred. No, you're not. However, that thought didn't last long. I felt a strange sensation near my feet as though I was being touched by something syrupy. It engulfed me up to my ankles, climbed to my knees, and crept up to my thighs, now reaching my waist. It wormed into my spinal cord, ate into my intestines, pierced into my lungs, and began to overflow from my trachea. The stench of rot made me nauseous. The smell of death, the breath of the Green Reaper. The sharp edge of his sickle dug into my throat. Oh. I shook my head wildly to drive away the delusion. However, the anxiety wouldn't disappear. It began to engulf my entire body. Right now, I'm alive. However, the next time a transfer occurs, I could wind up dead. I didn't know what happened to the body I left behind in Sphia. I might have already been chopped to pieces by the hands of that unknown maniac. The term half-dead has taken on a whole new meaning for me. Schrodinger's body. Fuck you! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! I'll read the damn tip. I'm a seagull. Kokoro had said these are beautiful words, however in reality this phrase is not exactly something someone should be very awestruck by. Seagull in Russian would be chaika, and incidentally chaika was also the call sign, something akin to a nickname of Vostok. I sure not wanted to Paul. Oh, do you copy? Do you copy? Interesting. Cat locked in the box refers to Schrodinger's cat, a thought experiment intended as a critique of quantum probability theories proposed by Bohr and Heisenberg. So-called Copenhagen interpretation supposes the cat was put in a box equipped with a mechanism. Yes, I know all this. But I thought this tip was going to have more than just what this was. Of course I know this. I literally said Schrodinger's body before this tip even showed up. I beat it to it by about 5 seconds, and that was why I got so mad. No, I didn't get... Fuck off. You told me that it was interesting. I wasn't gonna read it until you said read the tip, you might expand your brain a little. I didn't expand my brain at all. I'm not trusting you. I should have listened to not trust anybody in this route. That includes you, Diego. Not trusting Chad ever again. My eyes dropped to Kokoro's wristwatch. The present time was 7:34 p.m.
心頼むどうにか逃げてくれ無事に生き延びてくれ
I was at the shelter cabin. The only thing I could do was pray. Lifting my head, I saw Yomogi and Lean in the room. Yomogi had plunked himself down on a log chair and was reading the taped-together newspaper. It was the newspaper we had reconstructed yesterday. Lean at the bed with her legs crossed, staring intently at Yomogi. One of her cheeks was clenched and twitched from time to time. They had some kind of disagreement. Lean had the face of someone trying to hold back the rising tide of resentment. And where's Uni anyway? Couldn't see him anywhere. And from the moment I thought that, I heard a clattering sound coming from below the floorboards. From the square hole in the corner of the room, I looked into it and saw him there. Uni was fishing around in a wooden box, searching for something. I thought about calling out to him, but then decided that now wouldn't be a good time to stop myself. It was enough for the time being that I knew where he was. As for the other two, neither of them had said a word. Biting my lip, I walked around the room aimlessly, as if trying to throw off the shadow of death. The shadow wrapped itself around my ankles and slithered along after me. My heart raced in my chest. The warm blood became a muddied stream and coursed through my body. I placed my right hand against my chest and somehow tried to calm myself. By reflex, I quickly looked back down at my open palm, my left hand. I hadn't noticed now, but Kokoro's left hand had been gripping the voice recorder. Did she leave a reply? Clinging to that hope, I hit the voice recorder's power button. Data 3, there was a new voice file. I greedily pressed my ear to the speaker and listened to it. For the what? Did you drop it in the snow? It was disappointing, but there was nothing in the recording but meaningless voice. There wasn't any new data beside that. What are you doing, Kokoro? Why? I unintentionally clucked my tongue. The voice recorder had gotten soaked with my sweat. I wiped it down with my sleeve and placed it back into my pocket. When will the next transfer occur? What happened to my body? After this, I'll have to jump back into that blind darkness from before. And on top of that, my own consciousness will have jumped back without knowing what's going on. Knowing that the big shove might come at any moment, I couldn't relax for a second. Besides that, while I fear for myself at a time like this, I'm worried about Kokoro as well. What if Kokoro were to wind up dead because of me? If it came down to that, what would I do? She didn't have any connection whatsoever to the events at Svea. But in spite of that, even now there might be a sharp blade poised right above her throat. The image of Kokoro writhing around in agony appeared in my mind. I wanted to save her. I wanted to change places with her this very instant. However, at the same time I felt a crushing sensation of fear. A maddening feeling of frustration gouged in my chest. Time slowly passed as my inner dispute continued. Inside the cabin, shut in by a snowstorm. Even though my body was freezing, uncomfortable sweat ran down me without end. And then just at that moment, lean shrill voices reached my eardrums. I jumped back and began preparing myself for the next attack. I timidly turned around. Lean had stood up. Her gaze was not directed at me, but at Yomogi. Yomogi, who was taken aback, was returning her gaze. She turned his way and began to approach, her high heels clicking against the floor. Without a word, Lean snatched the newspaper away from him. Entertainment.
少なくとも暇つぶしにはなる。活字を追いかけてるとね、それとも僕の話し相手になってくれるのかな。
なんとも思わないわけ？どうしてこんなもの読んで平然としていられるのよ。
平然となんてしてないよ。僕だって怖い。だが恐怖に打ち勝つためにはまずそいつの正体を知らないとね。山に登るには山の本性を知っておく必要がある。それと同じことさ。
こんな新聞に正体も何もあるわけないでしょ。偽物に決まってるんだ。
偽物？昨べは確か違うことを言ってたね。いたずらなわけがない。
うるさいわね。とにかく目障りなのよ。
Not as much of an eyesore as you. Oh, got him burned.
こんなもの私の前にちらつかせないで。
And with that declaration, Lean hurled the newspaper toward the wall. It flew in my direction. I quickly dodged it. The newspaper bounced off the wall and fell to the floor. Yomogi shook his head, fed up, and removed a cigarette from his pocket. He placed one in his mouth and lit it. He inhaled the smoke, but then blew it back out again.
無神経な男ね。
神経が浮き上がってるよりはマシだろう。それよりも話し相手になってくれるんだろう。
冗談でしょ。雪だるまにでも相手してもらえば。
Tossing those scornful words his way, Lean returned to her bedside. Yomogi puckered his lips and blew a smoke ring, and then... Brat, Yuni's voice called out from below. Yomogi stood with a spring in his step and then descended into the underground storeroom with the cigarette between his lips. I suddenly remembered as I watched their exchange, right before I transferred from the shelter cabin last night. When we were putting the newspaper back together, Yomogi, Lean, and Yuni were all freezing. So then what happened here overnight? If anything, the three of them seemed even more relaxed than after my transfer this afternoon. They were calm and quiet as if nothing was wrong. Did this mean the three of them had settled the matter of the newspaper while I was away? However, if the cinders of the problem were blown on again and again, just like they were now, they'll eventually catch fire again. Come to think of it, I've had two questions since I arrived here. The first is, how can a newspaper from July 2011 exist here? It should still be January 12th, 2011 in the shelter cabin. So why is there a newspaper from half a year later? Could it be that, like my consciousness, the newspaper had jumped through time and space and shown itself half a year early? However, in my case, it's only my consciousness that jumped, in other words, something without a physical form. In contrast, a newspaper had, how can I explain it? It had mass. The newspaper was an entity composed of solid material, even if it weren't a newspaper but a CD-ROM or something. If only the information in the article had transferred, then you could say it was the same as my situation in a way. But that's not how things were. The page was made out of actual paper, and on top of that it was printed with a substance called ink. Therefore, I couldn't imagine how the paper could have been transported here via the same transference phenomenon. And why is there a newspaper from the future here? I felt like it wouldn't reach a conclusion no matter how long I thought over it. Continuing on, my second question. About Kokoro. Did Kokoro really read this newspaper article? If so, how did she feel about it? Of course, it wasn't just Kokoro. Yomogi and Lean read it as well. If someone were to find a newspaper from the future in which their own death was referenced, what would they think? How would they feel? A newspaper from the future of my own unknown nature, and that paper was an article describing my death. If it were me and I read that, what would I think? I probably wouldn't believe it. Just like them. There's no explanation for how a newspaper from the future could possibly exist. I'd probably call it ridiculous and then toss it out aside without a second thought. But I can't assume that the others feel the same. If you ask me why, it's because the words, "these 3 bodies, the survivors of the crash," are written there. And those 3 names correspond to those people in this shelter cabin. And on top of that, even Uni's name appeared there. Which meant that at the very least they were correct in saying that these 4 specific people survived the plane crash. And therefore, there were only 2 possible explanations. Either the newspaper was from the future, or it was from the past but written with someone with the abnormal ability of foresight. But no matter which was true, it didn't change the fact that the first half of the article was dead on. In that case, it was only human nature to believe the rest of the article would come true as well. It looks like I'm gonna die on January 17th. Is that what they thought? Yomogi, Lin, and Kokoro. In the service, they're all doing their best to appear calm, but in their hearts they're all beset by an excruciating uneasiness. That's what I thought. On top of that, they were stuck inside the shelter cabin, trapped by a snowstorm. They had nowhere to run. Despair. In a way, I had nowhere to run either. After all, I might come to find out that I died when the time of the next transfer came. I understand their feelings so well it hurt, especially Lean's. Suddenly feeling worried, I turned to face her. Lean was crouched down in the corner of the bed, staring at the floor. The fiery spirit she'd shown until now had vanished completely. My feet unconsciously steered me in her direction. I slowly drew near and then took a seat on the bed next to Lean. She spoke softly without even raising her head. I. Interesting. I gotta say something. I spoke quietly, trying not to irritate her. Speak kind words? I think that's a bait. I kept quiet. Taking her feelings into consideration, saying something reckless to her might backfire. Right now, Lean was very afraid, and her mind likely in chaos. Of the 4 of us here, the ones that's most afraid is probably her. She's putting up a tough front, but that's not the real her. I know everything there is to know about her. The real Lean is a more timid, more delicate, more fragile, and more easily hurt than anyone else. That's why to protect herself, she'll pull up a wall around herself. Whenever I see her bluffing like that, I feel tormented, unsure of whether to leave her alone or stay by her side. That hasn't changed even now. It's not who you really are, right? When I think of the fear she must feel, my chest gets so tight it hurts. Every careless remark would only sound superficial. So that's why I keep quiet. Words were unnecessary. I should just stay by her side right now. That's what I thought. However... Oh shit. Don't worry about the newspaper, T. Touch your earrings. We're touching your earrings. Even so, there was something I wanted to do no matter what. The earrings she wore, the small silver earrings. I'd given them to her on her birthday. I lifted my hand to her ear and touched it. Her body twitching, she raised her head to look at me. Confused at my unexpected actions colored her face. I didn't have any particular reason for doing this either. If anything, it was more of a habit. When we were going out, I gently touched her earrings and watched her react. Because she's so sensitive, she never got used to it no matter how many times I teased her, and she would twitch every time. I kind of, how do I say it, loved watching her react. She was always putting up a tough front, but for that single moment, Lean would return to being a normal, delicate girl. And while whimpering like a puppy, she'd look at me with reproachful eyes. My voice is dying. Her face hadn't changed one bit, even now. Her eyebrows raised up high in bewilderment. Of course, not everything was the same as back then, because the form I've seen right now is in my own. We gazed at each other without saying a word. The silence wore on. Trying to fill the space between us, I finally opened my mouth.
可愛いなと思って。
Her eyes wavered, trembling, at a loss. They reflected her confusion back at me.
リン、そのピアスが一番似合うのは、お前が笑ってる時、1なんか張らないで、素直にありのままのリンになって笑ってる時。だから。
サトル。サトルなの。
Lean finally spoke. I nodded silently.
サトル。
With a weak cry, she fell against my chest. I reached out her in my arms and enfolded her in a gentle embrace.
私怖いの。怖くて。怖くて。押しつぶされてしまいそうで。このままじゃ私、本当にどうにかなっちゃうかもしれない。サトル、助けて。
Her sorrowful appeal moved my heart. She clutched at my back, clinging to me.
私たち、きっと助からないのよ。あの新聞の通りになるのよ。やだ。やだ。私、まだ死にたくなんかないのに。なんでこんなことになっちゃったの。帰りたい。帰りたいよ。
大丈夫だ。もう怖がることなんてない。俺がついてるじゃないか。俺は絶対にお前のことを守ってみせる。
I won't let Lean die this time. I don't want to lose her, even if that was what the fates and I had chosen for Lean. If that's her destiny, then I'll break it to pieces with my own hands and save her for sure. Not just Lean. Yomogi and Kokoro too, I won't let a single person die. I swore that oath in my heart as I held her close.
だから心配するな。リン、俺のことを信じてくれ。
I whispered in her ear as I stroked her hair. I embraced her thin body, tightly, so that we'd never be apart. I wanted to take away all the fear swirling inside her chest, wrap it up and toss it away. However,
信じる。
the tone of her voice suddenly changed into one of cold, devoid of
あ
warmth.
なたのことを信じる。そんなことできるわけ。だってあなたはサトルちゃん。
With that sudden cry, Lean shoved me away and stood up.
バカみたい。私、なんでこんな女のことをサトルだなんて。
リン、聞いてくれ。俺は。
やめて。もう何も言わないで。これ以上混乱させるようなこと言わないでよ。お願いだから。
Leaving those words behind, Lean left my side.
リン、待てよ。
Paying no heed to my cries, she walked off to the corner of the room. And she disappeared through the hole leading to the underground storeroom as if trying to avoid me. Leaving me alone on the bed, I thought about those earrings. The earrings I'd given her as a birthday present. It's been half a year since we broke up, but even after half a year had passed, she still wore those earrings. That fact tormented me. What could I say to her? I wanted her to believe that I was Yukito Satoru. I had plenty of other evidence as well. Memories that only Lean and I would know. Yes, say them. However, as she was now, I don't think she'd believe a thing I'd say. It would only plunge her into further confusion. What should I do? The sound of the snowstorm pounding against the window resounded in my chest. Yomogi and Uni appeared as though changing places with Lean. The two of them climbed up the ladder one after another. They say while looking at my complexion.
何も。
Feigning complacency, I got it from the bed. The newspaper was lying in a corner of the room. I went over and picked it up. I sat on a log chair next to the table. I spread out the patched up newspaper and scanned the article. I've only read part of this newspaper. There could be another important information hidden somewhere in the rest of the articles. I was worried about Lean, of course, but I couldn't concentrate all my efforts on her. The transfers started everything. There could be a clue in this paper somewhere that might shed light on them. Resolved, I proceeded to read the articles. And then,
隊長、山木隊長、来てください。財宝を発見したであります。
何？財宝だと？どれどれ？
I heard Yomugi and Uni's voices behind the paper.
おほー、これは素晴らしい。素晴らしい色合いの財宝だ。しかし、青と白のストライプとは予想外だったな。こら、ユニ隊員、触っちゃいかん。罠が仕掛けられているかもしれん。
罠ですか？
ああ、そうだ。パクッとな、パクッとされる恐れがなきにしもあらず。
でも隊長、こんなチャンスには二度とお目にかからないかもしれませんよ。たとえ罠だとしても自分が犠牲に。
バカ者、何を言うか。大事な隊員を危険な目に遭わせるわけにはいかんのだ。ここは隊長である私が全責任を負って。
いえ、隊長の死は部隊の死であります。自分には女房子供はおりませんので。
うるさい、そんなことを言いよって。貴様、さては財宝を独り占めするつもりだな。
何をおっしゃるんですか。自分はそんなつもりなど。
Switch? Not yet.
お前らさっきから何言ってんの？
その言い方、もしかして有機道君か？
It seems they finally noticed. It's too much of a pain to answer, so I got straight down to business.
で、そんなとこでしゃがみ込んで何してんだよ。
何って。
Yomi and Yomugi stared at each other, and then returned their gaze to me. What their eyes returned to was the place where No, it was the place where Kokoro's thighs converged. I instantly understood what they were doing and what their conversation had been about. I could only
お
sigh.
前ら気楽でいいよな。お前らのことを見てるとこっちまでそのペースに飲まれちまいそうだ。
Even though I might die as soon as the next transfer happens. And even if I did manage to survive that phase with the men of urgent problems that were sure to kill me
確か
afterward.
にあっちに比べればこっちの世界は安らげるけどな。あっちは始終神経を研ぎ澄ませてなきゃいけない。誰が信用できるかもわからない。その点こっちは気楽でいいよ。
I took off the wristwatch as I complained. As become my habit, I put it in my
こっ
pocket.
ちとかこっちとか、なん
いや、なんでもない。続けてくれ。
Please continue. Saying that, I held up the newspaper once again.
続けてくれって言われても。
サトルだって一応女の子なんだから膝閉じた方がいいんじゃないの？
別に構わないだろ。見られたって減るもんじゃないし。それにな、どうせ閉じたって気を抜いたらすぐ元に戻っちまうよ。
Poor Kokoro.
こればっかりは癖なんだからどうしようもないんだ。
でも
心に何か聞かれたら何度も注意したってそう言っといてくれ。
Saying that from behind the newspaper, I heard Uni and Yomugi begin to confirm frantic whispers. Come on, Satoru. How can you do that to my girl? Well, she deserves it. She's a nutbag. I don't really know what they're talking about. Well, whatever. Forgot about them and focused on the newspaper instead. There was an article about Flight 18 on the local news page, but there wasn't any new information in it. It's the same no matter how many times I read it. It's not like the text of the article will change. After the snowfall, the decomposed corpses of 3 men and women were found on the mountain. Their names were Yomugi Seiji, Furukawa Kokoro, and Maizumi Lin. They lost their lives at 6:53 a.m. on January 17th after getting caught up in an avalanche. Conversely, you could say that they were able to survive until that time. And Uni's name was written there in the paper as well. The sole survivor. Kasuru Uni-kun, 11. Even now, half a year after the incident, Uni's mental state has yet to stabilize and he is steadfast in his refusal to speak. The Aomori Prefectural Police are still waiting for Uni's condition to improve in order to obtain more detailed information about the events that occurred.
そうだ。
I had forgotten something important. About Uni. The Uni in the shelter cabin right now wasn't the Uni of 2011. Even if he was in a body. Even if he was embodied, the consciousness dwelling inside that body belonged to Uni of 2012. If not, how could the words of Uni at Svea be explained? The Uni at Svea had said he didn't know anything about Mount Kakura. He definitely was involved in the plane crash, but that when he came to afterward, he was suddenly at Svea. That's what he said. This and that Uni, if only once, exchanged places with each other, like me and Kokoro. I'll go and ask the Uni here about it and... Nope, swap. Was inopportune time to transfer. Because I wanted him to call him out. Call him out on his bullshit. Make sure of it. Right as I thought that, the scenery shifted. A hot pain in my left arm, I reflexively jumped back and stood ready. Silhouette clutching a knife might still be nearby, but there was no one there. I restlessly looked around, bobbing my head like a chicken, but there was no trace of anyone in the room. This is my room at Svea. Just to be safe, I checked the closet, under the bed, and even in the bathroom. Not so much a shadow to be found. I patted down my body, but found no other wounds except for the one on my left arm. I muttered as I wiped the sweat from my brow. Didn't... I want to go back and check again, episode 3. Because I'm pretty sure the death of somebody died there. No. The death of that mysterious figure wasn't until later on. Okay. A feeling of relief blanketed me. Was it only tension that kept me standing? Fatigue suddenly surged through me. I sat down on the floor, drained of energy. I couldn't take so much as a single step. My body was heavy as stone. I was able to move my right arm far enough to take out my wristwatch. Present time, 8:08 p.m. Since it had taken me time to make sure the room was safe, I estimated this transfer had taken place at about 8:06 p.m. I put my wristwatch back in my pocket, and then I let my head hang. I gently rubbed my throbbing left arm with the palm of my right. Huh? Held on to the touch, something appears to be wrapped around my arm. I felt a strong pressure on the wound, too. I stood back up, my rusty joints creaking and groaning as I did. I walked over to the door and locked it just in case. Then returned to the center of the room. I took off my clothes and looked at my left arm. White bandages were wrapped around it. Part of the cloth that was discolored by a thick line of red blood that still oozed from beneath its surface. Tracing that line with a fingertip, I felt it numb and tingling. Did Kokoro dress it herself? I doubted she could bandage it so neatly using just her right arm. It isn't even her dominant arm after all. So then one of the other three? As I pondered the question, I decided to put my clothes back on. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I passed my arm through the sleeve. And before I had time to catch my breath, emotions began to swell within me, an exulting feeling bubbling up from within me. Those were the emotions I felt towards Kokoro. Even if I thanked her 1,000 times or 10,000 or a million, it wouldn't come close to expressing the depth of my gratitude to her. Somehow she managed to stay alive. We can thank her for that, because Kokoro was the one who let me escape from the demonic hands of the killer. There's nothing I could do. Even though it was my body, there was nothing else I could do to help. Kokoro had saved my life, a deep emotion that couldn't be expressed with mere words expanded within me, though, until it felt like it burst forth from my heart. I wanted to hug her and hug her and hug her, muss her hair and shout in her ears. Thank you, Kokoro, I'm so thankful I could sing. But that was an unfulfillable wish. Well, at the very least I could write it all down, I thought. I sat at the desk at once and picked up the pen. When I turned my eyes toward the memo pad, I noticed it. Letters I don't remember writing had been scribbled there. Nice to meet you, Yukido-san. I felt dizzy just reading the first line. The letter showed pretty low handwriting skills, like the scribbles of a foreigner trying to learn Japanese by imitating others, but then I remembered. I see, so she can't help but write this. It's inexcusable to complain about the poor handwriting and whatnot of someone who just saved your life. Instead, the sadness, the shoddiness of the letters she had written beautifully conveyed how heroic Kokoro was. With utmost effort, trying her hardest, she wrote this. In order to give her her earnest gesture the attention it deserved, I sat up ramrod straight and went on reading her message. Nice to meet you, Yukito-san. I wonder what I should write. There's so many things I wanted to write. I can't seem to bring it all together very well. You'd probably tell by looking, but my handwriting is like this, so... This might be difficult to read, so please forgive me. First off, I'll report all the important things to you. I've read all the messages that you'd left me on this notepad. I was only able to listen to half of your messages on this voice recorder left at the shelter cabin. But I was at least able to listen up to it seems that someone's after me. And about your left arm. The one who caught your left arm. That someone was the one who did it. That person tried to take away your life. In other words, that's how it is, right? But just who is that someone? Please explain it in a little more detail. What's happening with Satoru's body? Why is it that you believe someone is after you? But then, did you say that on the shelter cabin's voice recorder too? I was only able to hear part of it, so I don't know. If by any chance you didn't record it there, please reply here. But about that culprit. That makes it seem like she did transfer. Right away. In the middle of listening to the recorder. But then when we got back to her, why did we get back to her when she was using a knife or something and Yomogi was sucking on her fingers? What the fuck? I can't explain that. So no reason to beat around the bush, so just go ahead and write it. Suzukage Hotori-chan, you're aware that she has DID, right? Recently, she's been fixated on Hotori personality, though. However, I don't think it would be unusual for a hidden personality to wake at any time. With her hidden personality, I mean the other personality within her. The personality that killed 12 people in Awazumi Hospital. It may be possible that the personality is targeting you, Satoru. I say that, but it's not as if I have any decisive evidence. It might not be appropriate to write things like this, even though I don't have any real evidence. Even so, I don't think it would be going overboard just to give a warning. Be careful just in case. Next about uni. It's extremely complicated, so I can't say very well. What should I do? Okay, there's something I need to ask you. Have you ever met a young boy by the name of Kasura Uni? You know, right now I'm thinking this. That maybe Uni is teleporting. Teleporting is both his body and consciousness are transferring together. And the timing of this teleportation is at this exact same time when Satoru and I transfer. Do you get what I'm trying to say? In other words, at the same time that I transfer back to Mount Kokoro, Uni's body and body jump back to Mount Kokoro as well. Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist as two people at the same time. That's why, by my prediction, Satoru shouldn't have met Uni even once. That's what I thought. Which is it really? Have you met Uni or haven't you? Please tell me. And I have two more things I want you to tell me. The first is about Sphia. Satoru should know much more than I do about this facility, right? That's why I want you to tell me everything about Sphia. Like how to get outside, how to communicate with the outside world. Second is about the shelter cabin. The time that I'm away from the cabin, please tell me if anything important happens. I'm sorry, it feels like all I'm writing is please tell me, and things like that, huh? As an apology, here's the report. First about the earthquake. An earthquake occurred at Sphia. Because of that, the breaker was stripped and a blackout occurred. It's fixed now though. At the times of transfer, I checked properly just like you told me, so here they are below. 1:07 p.m. transfer to Sphia. 1:40 return to the shelter cabin. 6:03 transfer to Sphia. 6:36 return to the shelter cabin. 7:33 transfer to Sphia. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 transfers have occurred 5 times, 2.5 branch trips, and at present I'm still here. It looks like the times are all over the place, but do you think there's a pattern? Well then, one less thing. I'll do as much as I can while I'm in this world, so Satoru too, please take care of my body. Things are pretty bad here, but it's a serious situation there too. It might be kind of weird to say this, but please try not to die. No matter what happens, I'll protect your body until the very end. So you too, Satoru, please protect my body. Live, survive. The two of us together will escape from this weird phenomenon. And then, I can't think of anything else. Anyway, I'll be waiting for the day I can meet you. For sure, somewhere we'll... So then, this is where Kokoro will end our message. Kindly forgive the roughness of my writing. Later then. P.S. If you do anything weird to my body, I'll never forgive you. Don't touch it too much, okay? Rather, don't touch it at all. P.S. Come to think of it, I forgot to write something important about the newspaper. You saw it too, right, Satoru? The newspaper that was in the shelter cabin. I guess she transferred mid-sentence. After the line, the newspaper that was in the shelter cabin, the rest of the page was blank. She hadn't drawn anything this time either. I was kind of hoping that she would, so I actually felt a little disappointed. That aside, I should write a reply before it was too late. I grabbed the pen and faced the white notepad. Goto, this is Sweater Sun, but do you know where the highest mountain on the planet is? It's on the border of Nepal and Tibet. Elevation, yes. We've read this all before. And my voice is killing me, so I don't feel like reading an info dump again. Yes, I read it out loud last time. Okay, and after writing this I realized something.
心はこの時のことを知ってるはず。
Kodo had seen the killer. No, wait. I asked him her message, what do you mean by somebody? As though she hadn't had the slightest idea. In other words, she didn't see the culprit after all? And is everything that took place while she was asleep after taking the pill? Is that it? At any rate, I've got to ask her. I once again turned to the notepad. Hey Kokoro, do you know who the culprit is? Please tell me in detail what it was that happened then. I'm begging you. Sorry, the conversation's changed direction a bit. Well, that's it for now. We walked to our bathroom and my left arm being cut. These three things happen in succession mean that someone is after me. More specifically, someone is after my life. About Sphia, is there any way to leave, or are there any means to communicate with outside? We already read all this. Work of a prodigy. It didn't change. I'm reading it. I'm just not reading it out loud. I'm reading it all, but not reading it out loud because my voice is killing me if I read it out loud. But I am reading it all. It didn't change. Later, I finished writing the message and decided to go to the dining area for dinner. I was incredibly hungry. I'd realized that I hadn't eaten anything since this morning. In the end, I didn't even get that neither breakfast nor lunch that Utsumi made. Which reminds me, I wonder what happened. When I was away from Sphia, did Kokoro eat it for me? At any rate, that didn't change the fact that I was hungry. And again, my voice is calling me, so it's been 3 hours, about 2 hours 58 minutes. This is probably a good place to leave off. Thanks guys for watching, and the next stream should be in the next couple days. But yeah, been good.